Ready?
Yeah. Just want to announce we are going to get started in a few minutes. We are waiting for a few more people to come in.
Hey, mute it. Try again.
Hi. July, June 6th.
Right, so how that. State historic preservation of markers. Yeah. Yeah. To meet the standards.
We can talk, man.
for historic texts. Yeah, okay, great. Yep,
I ran out.
thanks, man. Glad you mentioned that. because I forgot.
Mic check.
Oh, yeah.
So we're presenting from. Oh, I guess you're right. Hey.
Mic check, 1, 2, mic check. Mic check, mic check.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Mic check.
Yeah, I know. And I told him, I'm like, I know this seems silly, but I would have.
That's what should I read? Fine.
Mic check, 1, 2. Okay, but I'm not getting. Mic check. Mic check 1 2. Mic check 3 4. Mic check. Check 1. Check 2. Check 3. Yeah. Good to go.
Seven. Test, test. We're gonna start this meeting.
This particular lady.
Welcome, folks. Sorry about the late start. This is the Commission of Chicago Landmarks, today's date. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. What is today's date? June 6th. I'm gonna call this meeting to order with a roll call. Commissioner Jekowitz. Here. Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Boatwright. Commissioner Rubin. Commissioner Ponce and Tolliver are not here. I am Commissioner Wong. We do have a quorum. I'd like to ask anyone wishing to make a statement on today's agenda to complete a public comment card and give a card to the member of staff. Comment cards are available at the door. As a courtesy to other individuals wishing to offer comments, we ask that members of the general public limit your statements to 3 minutes or less. When the time comes for public comment on the individual item on the agenda, I'll call the names from the cards and ask you to come forward to the microphone to make your statement. At that time, please state your name and the interest, organization, or company you represent, if any. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. That meeting was the regular meeting of April 4th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. The motion carries unanimously. The approval of the minutes are accepted. We're gonna change a couple things around. Let's see, where are we going to? So item number 6, we're going to do that first. This is a citywide Adopt a Landmark Fund informational only for a completed project. This is the property located at 6901 Oglesby Cooperative Apartment Building in the 5th Ward. There is no resolution before the commission on this agenda item. It is for informational purposes only. And Dan, if you could give us the report on this.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm here today with a brief overview of a completed Adopt a Landmark project from the 2021 funding round. The 6901 South Oglesby Condominium Association, representing the 40-unit owners of the landmark 6901 Oglesby Cooperative Apartment Building located at the same address, have completed their project. In 2023, the commission approved a grant of $249,999 in Adopt a Landmark funds for exterior envelope work totaling approximately $271,000. For orientation, the 6901 Oglesby building is located at the southeast corner of the East 69th Street and South Oglesby Avenue within the South Shore community area and the 5th Ward. Completed in 1929, the 11-story English Gothic structure was built soon after the first Chicago zoning ordinance of 1923, which supported taller lakefront apartment buildings. Although a condominium building now, it was also an early building utilizing the co-op form of land ownership in Chicago. It was designated a Chicago landmark in 2008. Based on a critical report assessment completed by Architectural Consulting Group in 2020 for the association, the Adopt a Landmark scope of work for the project included completion of significant masonry work to the main 69th Street facade that was started in 2021 through 2022. To help orient you, this diagram shows the location of the work completed prior to the Adopt a Landmark funding on the building in red, while the location of the Adopt a Landmark scope of work is highlighted in blue. So it's the far westernmost section of the facade. More specifically, in front of you now is an enlarged version of the Adopt a Landmark work that was completed. The work included a complete rebuilding of the upper parapet wall, plus reconstruction of the parapet wall above the bay window on the 8th floor, as well as work to the vertical masonry piers, tuck pointing and patching on this remaining section of the building's 69th Street facade. And here are some work in progress photos. Again, this work was done primarily in 2023, and a little bit of it was completed earlier in 2024. Some additional work in progress photos. And finally, here are the final work photos showing the completed work. In summary, the project came in right at budget. Again, the grant was for $249,999 in Adopt a Landmark funds. The total project costs were approximately $271,000. And finally, I just want to note that while the specific Adopt a Landmark funds were for finishing this phase of work, as I just described, this really is just a small portion of the overall capital investment that the owners of the units in the building have poured into the structure over the most recent years. The prior work, for example, was well in excess of several $1 million of their own funds. And this is on top of the initial stabilization work performed on the building, as well as several other significant capital investments into the building, all funded by the association. That concludes my presentation, and Michelle Montgomery from the association is here today as well.
Thank you, Dan. Does Ms. Montgomery would like to make a comment? Oh, yes, great.
Hello, I am the treasurer of the board of the Condo Association. And on behalf of the owners and the board, we want to thank the commission for extending the Adopted Landmark grant to a condominium association. We believe we were the first so far to be a recipient of those funds, where most of them are commercial properties. As Mr. Klaber said, you know, we've put a lot of skin in the game to try to address over 50 years of deferred maintenance on this beautiful building. We are in the zone of the Obama Library, as well as the South Shore Country Club. And again, we want to thank the commission and hope if there's any more funds out there, we still have a lot of work to do, and we will be applying. So again, thanks so much. It was a pleasure working with everyone at the commission.
Thank you. I do want to note, it's an incredibly beautiful building. I've driven by it numerous times, and we applaud the work that you all have done ahead of time, and the care that you've taken into preserving this building. We're happy to have been able to contribute to that, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is the Ramova Theater, final landmark recommendation. This is the property located at 3508 to 3518 South Halsted Street in the 11th Ward. And Eilish, this is yours.
We're having technical difficulties.
Oh.
Might need a tech.
He's asking what you need.
Isn't syncing with what I'm seeing on the screen.
It's not syncing with her laptop. Okay. You want to try unplugging and plugging it back? Oh, there you go. Yep, there we go. Yay, thanks, Kendall.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Eilish Tuffy, Coordinating Planner of DPD. In March, you voted in favor of a preliminary recommendation for the Ramova Theater, and in April, you heard a favorable statement from the Department of Planning and Development. The ownership entity, Our Revival LLC, has consented to designation, so you now may consider a final recommendation to City Council. The Ramova is a theater that symbolizes Chicago's significance within the history of American cinema, of Bridgeport's timeframe as a Lithuanian enclave, and of popular revival-style architecture from the early 20th century. This shows its location in the Bridgeport neighborhood at the intersection of 35th and South Halsted. Of the 7 possible criteria for landmark designation, you preliminarily found the building meets 2, including criteria 1 for heritage. The Ramova Theater conveys aspects of Chicago's ethnic heritage, in particular the Lithuanian community that previously predominated this area. After 1880, Halsted and 35th developed into a small but important commercial strip known as Lithuanian Downtown. It was here that Lithuanian businessman and Bridgeport resident, I am not going to attempt this name because I cannot pronounce it properly, began construction of the Ramova Theater block in 1928. Advertisements in the Lithuanian newspaper invited readers to invest in shares in the theater and boasted that the 1,300-seat theater would be the pride of the Lithuanian community. The theater opened in 1929. Ramova translates as peaceful place in Lithuanian. The photo at the right from 1930 shows the original marquee and blade sign. Like most theaters, these were changed later, and the elements on the building now currently date to 1944. In addition to history and persons, the building is an outstanding work of architecture as specified in Criterion 4. As a practical combination of commercial building with a movie theater, the Ramova is a fine example of a theater block style building. Typically found on neighborhood commercial streets, these theater block developments combined entertainment and commercial uses in a single building. The theater and adjoining commercial block share terracotta ornament, which unifies the overall facade. But the building's functions as a work in 2 distinct parts. The Halsted elevation Spanish Baroque design includes a taller section at its south end. The grandiose theater entrance is symmetrical in its design. The building's buff-colored terracotta was manufactured in 1929. Character-defining features of the Spanish Baroque terracotta include vertical pilasters decorated with leaves and urns, deeply inset wall niches that are framed by ornate surrounds, in contrast to the otherwise flat wall surface. Oval and heart-shaped cartouches, scallop shells, and tapered finials along the roofline. With respect to the integrity criterion, the Ramova Theater possesses excellent physical integrity of its character-defining features. Theater closed in 1985, and the commercial spaces were underutilized for a time before the property was completely vacated. After 16 years of minimal use and deferred maintenance, the city of Chicago acquired the property through eminent domain in 2001. The building was mothballed until a viable proposal for the site could be realized. In 2022, the Our Revival LLC group acquired the building from the city. The team entered into a redevelopment agreement with the city and received incentives for the building's rehabilitation. That work was completed in 2023, and the theater is once again operating as an entertainment venue. These are renderings. The property was also called out in a 2019 neighborhood plan that specifically prioritized the rehabilitation of the Ramova Theater. So this project is in realization of that goal. The building's located in the 11th Ward, and Alderwoman Lee is aware of the proposed designation and supported the RDA, the redevelopment agreement. We recommend that the significant historical and architectural features of the building be preliminarily be identified as all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the building, including the blade sign and marquee from 1944. You have a final landmark recommendation before you to that effect. The owner was making his way here through the security line. Oh, yep, and he's in the back. In case there are any questions for him, Tyler Nevius. This completes my presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eilish. Does the commission have any questions for Eilish at this time? Any comments? Tyler, did you want to say anything? You want to come? You got to get to a mic, though.
Okay.
Okay. No other questions. We have somebody wanted to speak on this item from the public. Patrick Grossi, you want to step up to the mic?
Hello, and apologies, I was about as far away from this mic as possible. Good afternoon, Patrick Rossi. I'm representing Preservation Chicago. I'm just going to briefly reiterate comments I offered during previous consideration of this nomination. Preservation Chicago fully supports final landmark recommendation of the Ramova Theater, and we're delighted to see this move forward. The Ramova, as you just heard, is a Bridgeport institution, which just reopened last December to great fanfare. After a nearly 40-year period of vacancy, it's really an incredible turnaround. The building retains high integrity, highly ornate architectural features, primarily those along Halsted Street, combining aspects of classical and Spanish revival, and in particular, the Spanish Baroque. And the Ramova Theater, in our opinion, is a more than fitting Chicago landmark, to say nothing of its iconic neon blade sign and recently restored marquee. And moreover, the Ramova pairs this integrity of material with an integrity of use. Theaters and performing arts spaces like this are so vital. They act almost like churches in the way they contribute to their surrounding corridors. They are neighborhood anchors. They are shared community gathering spaces, and they bring both immediate neighbors and the broader community of Chicagoans together. So Preservation Chicago fully supports final landmark recommendation. We do applaud the new owner-operators on their considerable efforts here. We wish them the greatest success as they pursue this next chapter of the Ramova's very storied history. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Nobody else has signed up to speak on this. Any other further discussion by the commission? I did want to note that this is an amazing project, and the owners, Tyler and Emily, did an incredible job of this. And if nothing more, go check out the chili. The chili is delicious. Having no further discussion, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation to the City Council for the Ramova Theater located at 3503 to 3518 South Halsted Street. Is there a motion? And second by Commissioner Burns. Do the roll call. Commissioner Jekowitz. Yes. Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Rubin. I'm a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Next item is the final landmark recommendation for the Jackson Storage and Van Company warehouse in the 22nd Ward. This is located at 3609 to 3611 West Cermak Road. And Matt, you're on.
Chairman Wong, members of the commission. Oh, my time's up. Okay. So it's a little bit of Venetian Gothic, a little bit of Venice on Cermak in South Lawndale at 3609 West Cermak Road. Last November, you made a preliminary landmark recommendation for the Jackson Storage and Van Company warehouse. The building was recently purchased by Theater Y, and they have consented to landmark designation, so now you can consider a final recommendation to council. You found that the building meets criterion 1 for history and heritage, and aspects of that are the increasing mobility of American households between the end of World War I and the Great Depression. This mobility, this moving to cities, created demand for household storage and moving services. At the same time, we were becoming a consumer society. Households were acquiring more stuff, which even if you weren't moving, sometimes you needed to store. With these factors in play, a 28-year-old gentleman named Thomas Jackson entered the moving industry, and in 1903, he established the Chicago and West Suburban Express Company. As his business grew in 1927, Jackson commissioned architectural firm of Hall, Bisbee, and Renish, which prepared this rendering of a makeover for Jackson's warehouse on Cermak Road. And that brings us to criterion 4 for architecture. The building's really rare in Chicago as an example of Venetian Gothic architecture, especially applied to a very utilitarian building type. Left in this slide is the 14th century Doge's Palace in Venice. That was the culmination of Gothic architecture in that city. And on the right, the Jackson Storage and Van Company, a humble design, but clearly inspired by the Doge's Palace. A few views of the interior, including a few of the original storage units, a massive bank vault, and a fountain designed by the Batchelder Studios of California. By choosing such a stylish treatment for this building on Cermak, Jackson was following standards recommended at the time by the household moving industry, which recommended stylish architecture to build customer trust. In terms of integrity, you found that the building meets that. Changes to the building include replacement of windows and storefront changes, pretty typical stuff for a building of this vintage, which don't diminish the integrity. The building is located in the 22nd Ward, and Alderman Rodriguez is supportive of this proposed landmark designation. You found that the significant features be identified as all exterior elevations, including the roof lines, as well as the Batchelder tile water fountain. He also found that the common brick east and west elevations are secondary, and that more changes could occur to support new uses for the building. And those of you on the permit review committee will recall that last month, this came before you, a proposal for a blade sign, a pre-permit basis, should the owner ever wish to pursue that, and that will be baked into the significant features. So you have a final recommendation to that effect, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't know if there's a representative from Theater Y here. I don't see any hands. Oh, there we go. We do have a representative from Theater Y here.
Okay, thank you. Does the commission have any questions for Matt at this time? Having none. Would the representative like to make a statement? on this?
Good evening. My name is Terrion Collins, and I am a member and also a performer at Theater Y. I can only currently speak on the present, additional to the history of the building. Theater Y is currently changing so many lives, especially our youth ensemble. This is a place where our community has somewhere to go besides their schools. So many schools are taken away, so many good programs, and it's unlikely enough that they have a few options. And with this building, so many different talents besides acting has crossed paths, giving each other hopes, giving each other chances of portraying themselves and giving themselves a light and a beacon to do as they please. Our children are becoming great leaders. They're becoming great performers. And they're also teaching each other, learning from each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Um, There's a Frank Butterfield who has signed up to speak on this. Oh, who does not wish to speak, but is in favor of the project. Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. If there's no other discussion, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation to City Council for the Jackson Storage and Van Company Warehouse at 3609 to 3611 West Cermak Road. Oh, Ward.
Aye.
Sure. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Commissioner Boatright. I'm Ward Miller. I'm the Richard H. Treehouse Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. And we are here before you today to support the final landmark recommendation for the Jackson Storage and Van Company Warehouse located at 3609 to 3611 West Cermak in the Little Village, South Lawndale community. This is a community which really has few landmarks. So this is really wonderful to bring a landmark designation to this community, which is a great honor. And it's a really wonderful community that deserves more of these kinds of landmarks. And we want to encourage that. So we're grateful to the commission, the staff, and all of you to forward this. We've also met with Alderman Rodriguez, members and ownership at Theater Y over the last number of months, and want to encourage this to go forward. This is one of a handful of storage company warehouses that are important, and only a few of them are designated landmarks, including the Reeby Brothers warehouse, the Egyptian-style warehouse on Clark Street, and we're hoping to see before you today the Werner Brothers warehouse, one of our Chicago 7 most endangered from last year, one of our Chicago 7, also be nominated to the National Register of Historic Places. So we support that, and we also support that landmark designation when that comes before you. But just wanted to come before you today, support this designation, and say thank you to the city, the staff, and everyone involved to make this storage warehouse a really wonderful community asset for all the children and community members in the Little Village neighborhood. Thank you.
Ward, we don't have record of your statement, if you don't mind.
I believe you've got my form.
Okay, we'll
Thank
look
you.
for it. There's a request for a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation. So move Commissioner Burns, and a second by Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Jekowitz, Commissioner Boatright,
Yes.
Commissioner Fair, Commissioner Rubin. I am a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is the program committee report. This is a recommendation to the Illinois Historic Sites Advisory Council on nominations to the National Register of Historic Places. 2 items on here were the Hotel Royalton located at 1810 West Jackson Boulevard in the 27th Ward, and the Werner Brothers Storage Warehouse number 6 in the 49th Ward. Is somebody giving this, Sue Ellen? Okay, Commissioner Burns, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to report that the program committee met on May 10th to hear public comments on 7 suggestions for possible Chicago landmark designation that have been received from the public since the previous program committee meeting. The suggestions and comments have been forwarded to Historic Preservation Division staff for further review and consideration. No action by the full commission is needed. I also want to report that the program committee reviewed, on behalf of the full commission, 2 nominations for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. The commission's review of these nominations is under its authority as a certified local government under the National Historic Preservation Act. This gives the commission an opportunity to comment on National Register nominations for Chicago properties. The nominations listed on today's commission agenda are, again, the Hotel Royalton in Ward 27 at 1810 West Jackson Boulevard, and the Warner Brothers Storage Warehouse number 6 in the 49th Ward, located at 7613 North Paulina Street. The program committee voted to recommend that the full commission support both National Register nominations. You are provided with 2 recommendations to that effect.
Thank you. Any questions of Commissioner Burns? This item. I believe there's a representative from Alderman Haddon's ward who'd like to make a statement.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, esteemed commissioners. My name is Kyle Ryan, proud Southsider and product of St. Adalbert's, current resident of the 46th Ward and Deputy Ward Director for the 49th Ward under Alderwoman Maria Haddon. I stand here before you today on behalf of the Alderwoman and the Greater Rogers Park community to offer our full support for the favorable consideration of the Warner Brothers Storage Warehouse number 6, located at 7613 North Paulina Avenue in the 49th Ward, to the National Register of Historic Places. The Warner Brothers Storage Warehouse number 6, and that's a mouthful, is known locally as the Warner Building and has stood as a landmark over the North of Howard neighborhood for 102 years. It greets many as one of the first buildings you see entering the city from the north. Its beautiful and intricate terracotta facade is well known to locals, second only to where the post office is at. However, the building, admittedly, has seen better days. When developers approached our office with a proposal to build a large, all-affordable ETOD building on the site in the summer of 2022, the preservation of the Warner Building was not considered in their proposal. Their initial thought was it would be too difficult and too costly to incorporate the Warner. Preservation Chicago even included the property in its 2023 Most Endangered Buildings list. As an admitted architectural aficionado, this was an immediate concern to me, and I took it upon myself to see what steps could be taken to save the building. Together with Preservation Chicago, neighbors, the larger preservation community, the Department of Housing, and the Department of Planning and Development, we successfully lobbied the developer to reconsider and incorporate as much of the original building into the proposal as possible. Now, in 2024, I can happily say that the Warner Building will be reimagined as the centerpiece of this new development, which will also be named the Warner to pay homage to the history of the site. Additionally, I want to thank the developers, Housing for All, for their efforts and collaboration in working to save the Warner. The following history of the building was prepared by Preservation Chicago. On October 3rd, 1921, a permit was pulled to build a 6-story brick storage building at 7613 North Paulina Street for the Warner Brothers Fireproof Storage Company for an estimated cost of $90,000. Architect George S. Kingsley prepared plans for the building, while H. Moreland, a prolific and accomplished builder of his time, was listed as the contractor. By summer 1922, the building had been completed, and on September 10th, an advertisement in the Chicago Tribune announced the building as Chicago's most beautiful warehouse, with a photo of its grand 2-story lobby. The Warner Brothers commissioned Kingsley to create an ornate facade for their storage facility because Kingsley, a quote, promotion-minded architect, had by this time developed a reputation for skillfully bringing elegant revival styles to everyday storage structures as a form of marketing. He was quoted in 1923 as saying, quote, "Good architecture is good advertising. $20,000 is an investment cheaper than a billboard rental, more lasting, equally effective, and in better taste. People who store furniture generally live in artistic homes. They will appreciate their furs and pianos being kept in a beautiful building." By 1921, Kingsley had already built several of these elaborate structures for Chicago's many storage companies. In addition to his work on the Warner Brothers Storage Warehouse, Kingsley was responsible for a neoclassical storage warehouse at 6325 North Broadway, a Renaissance revival structure at 6542 North Clark, the neoclassical Jackson Van Express and Company building at 5951 West Madison Street, and a Prairie School Storage Center at 3833 North Sheffield Avenue. However, Kingsley's most iconic design was the Egyptian Revival Reby Storage Warehouse at 2325 North Clark Street, which was designated a Chicago landmark in 1999. With its exuberant Egyptian motif and terracotta, the Reby Storage Warehouse is among Lincoln Park's most admired pieces of architecture. All these buildings still stand today and continue to serve their communities, much as they did for the last century. Kingsley also designed a number of orange-rated buildings listed in the Chicago Historic Resources Survey, including an American four-square house at 1120 West Albion and a residential building at 77 North Ashland in the 49th Ward, and two of my neighbors' homes at 645 and 737 West Hutchinson Street, which are contributing buildings to the West Hutchinson Street Landmark District in the 46th Ward. The landmark designation report for the Reby Storage Warehouse notes that, quote, Kingsley treated his storage warehouses as blank canvases on which he could paint architectural characters, given that the simplicity of the storage warehouse building lent itself to ornamentation. Kingsley's taste in revival ornament, however, lies within a larger historical context. The same designation report, quote, revival styles were very much in vogue in the early 1920s. Victorian architecture was losing favor, disliked for its fussy details and domestic connotations. In a spirit of controlled adventure, architects were turning to historical styles to refresh their design vocabularies. This shift in American architectural taste explains the Spanish Baroque revival splendor of the Warner Building. The building's ground floor windows are framed by white terracotta archways, and in the center stands a complex door frame complete with green terracotta bases, shields, and urns. Highly decorative spiral columns carry the eyes upward from the ground floor to an elaborate cornice, ornamented windows, and surrounds. Viewed from the street, the building's exuberant facade is surprising for a storage warehouse. Therefore, this site would be an ideal candidate for the National Register of Historic Places and as an exquisite example of early 20th century American commercial architecture. This designation would also generate significant additional sources of funding for the cost of the historic structure overhaul while preserving a critical piece of Chicago's commercial architectural heritage for another century of use, serving the Rogers Park community. In closing, it is the opinion of Alderwoman Maria Hadden, 49th Ward Office, and the greater Rogers Park community that National Register of Historic Places status should be granted to the Warner Storage Warehouse Number 6, located at 7613 North Paulina Avenue in the Rogers Park community of Chicago, Illinois. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for the representative? If not, Mr. Miller, you had signed up to not speak, but in favor of the project. Thank you. Nobody else has signed up to speak. Therefore, I'd like to request a motion to approve the recommendations of the program committee on the two nominations to the National Register of Historic Places. Is there a motion? So moved, Commissioner Jekowitz. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Boatright.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Rubin. I'm a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the report from the public hearing and final landmark recommendation for St. Adalbert Parish Complex in the 25th Ward. This is for located at 1622 to 1658 West 17th Street and 1633 to 1659 West 16th Street. I want to make note that a public hearing was held on May 10th regarding the proposed landmark designation of the St. Adalbert Parish Complex at 1622 to 1658 West 17th Street and 1633 to 1659 West 16th Street. Before I call on Commissioner Rubin for a report, let me reiterate that the public hearing was the forum for introducing evidence and cross-examining witnesses for the proposed designation. The commission has received copies of any received correspondence as well as the transcript and exhibits from the public hearing. However, I will allow brief comments from the property owners should they wish to address the commission. So at this time, I'd like to call on the property owners, if they're here, to make a statement. You want them to come up, or how do you want to do this? Yeah, why don't you come on up? Well, Commissioner Rubin's gonna, before. Those are the live ones, right? Anywhere up there. Yeah. Well, they're all live now.
They're all lit up.
Yeah. Hot mics. You could, floor is yours if you'd like to, if you could state your names and represent, who you're representing. So,
Sure will. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Danielle Meltzer Castle with the law firm of Vetter Price, and I'm here on behalf of St. Paul Parish as well as the Catholic Archdiocese of Chicago. And to my left, we have James Gioli, General Counsel of the Archdiocese, and to my right, we have George Kissel of Okrent Kissel Associates, who I believe is well known to most or all of you as a very respected land use expert in the city of Chicago
thank you.
and elsewhere. So thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to speak. And thank you, Commissioner Rubin, for serving as the hearing officer on May 10th. In a lot of ways, the record from May 10th is very similar to what the Landmark Commission had before them last summer and fall, in August and September, when this body did vote to preliminarily to landmark the St. Adalbert property. But now it's a different day, and now we actually have the record from May 10th. And so rather than accepting at face value without any deeper inquiry the staff report, you have an incredibly detailed report from George, which is right on point of the criteria that are to be applied here. And we understand and recognize we're asking the commission to do something unusual and that may seem difficult, and that is to decide today to not recommend landmarking. But we're doing that for
I'm going. Please continue.
I'm going to reiterate something I said on May 10th. And that is that the 2023 proceedings, which were the ones on which this commission made its preliminary recommendation, were proceedings in which the actual beneficial owners of the property, St. Paul Parish, and actual residents of the neighborhood were not heard. They were not heard for two reasons. One, our own disorganization and failure to understand what wild narrative you guys were going to be presented with about who the actual community was. And secondly, because it was highly orchestrated by those landmarking advocates. But I want to get into the dirt right now. I want to focus on the criteria because that is what you guys need to apply. If you go in depth into what we presented and submitted in writing, and I also want to, note, I'm not criticizing staff. I'm grateful for Landmark staff, but nobody has responded to us since we submitted the 150 plus pages on May 10th of George's report. But he goes facade by facade, criterion by criterion. You can't rely on a significant architect criterion when you got 4 buildings. One, you don't even know who the architect is. Second, somebody who's insignificant. And even with Henry Schlacks, you've got better examples of his work. And also the criteria that we are preserving an important part of Pilsen's cultural and historic legacy? Well, amen to preserving it, but rather than preserve a building by itself, how about we preserve St. Paul Parish, which is canonically the survivor, excuse me, excuse me.
If this continues, I'm going to clear the gallery. Continue.
There is, okay, may I continue?
Please continue. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to try not to lose my train of thought here.
Thank you.
There is a very vital and beautiful piece of Chicago's history that is tied to Pilsen and includes Catholic worship and includes Mexican traditions and Polish traditions. But sadly, I think everybody knows that attendance at Catholic parishes has plummeted, and the archdiocese and the parishes and all the way to the Vatican, very difficult decisions have had to be made. Are we going to have no surviving parishes, or are we going to consolidate parishes so that they can at least exist in this consolidated form? And that's exactly what happened. And if you dive deep into this record that we have given you, you know what you see? St. Paul Parish is now the consolidation of 3 parishes: St. Paul, St. Anne, and St. Adalbert. Look at what happened with St. Anne. The parishioners from St. Anne obviously could choose where they wanted to worship afterwards. Some went to other parishes, some came to St. Paul. The property at St. Anne, where there was city cooperation, St. Anne was able to be sold, repurposed, brought back onto the tax rolls, and very respectfully and carefully, pews and windows from St. Anne were brought to St. Paul. And I have been in this space and it is beautiful. Right behind the Holy Grounds coffee shop, which you should all visit, there is a lovely St. Anne chapel. That is a successful integration. How about a year from now, we could have a story like the Ramova, which I love, which had consent, city cooperation. You know what else is in this record? A petition directed to the commission, city council, DPD, pleading with you to not in isolation landmark this property, but to sit down with us and collaborate and help us bring a contract purchaser to the property. The city does not have enough resources to buy this property or develop it on its own. So we need private resources, and we need to do this in a collaborative and comprehensive way, the way RDAs get crafted, the way plan developments get crafted. So again, criteria by criteria, I am sorry, Mr. Chairman, would you mind? Okay,
Go ahead.
all right. 2 last things, and I do appreciate the time you've given me, and then I'm just gonna, because I'm very emotional about this, and I am gonna check if Mr. Gioli has anything to add that I have missed. Here are the last things I want to say. Let me make sure I get this out. We have a living legacy at St. Paul of Catholic worship and community service. But even St. Paul, the consolidated parish, is in danger right now because they are having their funds drained fighting this landmarking fight, maintaining this building, being unable to sell this asset, but being responsible for its maintenance in the meantime. So honestly, I think if you guys look at the criteria, look at the blank and boring walls, look at the asphalt parking lot. I don't know how you can rationally apply the criteria to this overall site and say that the criteria are met. And I also want to add that in the rules and regs, it says that your recommendation to city council is where you're supposed, no, I'm sorry, not supposed to, you're mandated to identify the significant criteria. What is a significant criteria? Something that is essential to preserving a historic and cultural legacy. Jim said, Mr. Gioli said last at the hearing in May, and I'm sure he'll reiterate, we all want to preserve the south facade of the church. We all think it is beautiful. There is no intent to have it be demolished or work with a contract purchaser who would demolish that beautiful facade. But beyond that, this site overall, which is what is before you, does not meet the criteria.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I just want to address a couple of quick points. The first is that there is a backdrop to this landmarking proposal and to what you're hearing in the chamber today. I don't want to spend much time on it, just to note one thing. As a core religious decision, the Archdiocese of Chicago, in cooperation with the parishioners of all three parishes that Ms. Kessel mentioned, went through a process of discernment that resulted in a choice of St. Paul's as the core parish for Pilsen. And in order to have sustainable, viable ministry in this neighborhood, it was important and necessary to focus all the resources on one site. The sites were all looked at, parishioners were consulted. Our Archbishop obviously had a role in making this decision, and a church decision was made about how Catholic ministry would be provided in this neighborhood. And the decision was to focus it on St. Paul's. Understandably, not everybody was happy with that decision, and you're hearing those emotions today. We are sympathetic to those emotions. We understand them. It's a painful thing for a church to close. But if we didn't do it, there'd be no church in Pilsen at all. And in that sense, the ability and the right to express opinions is completely respected and understood. But what the point I want to make as the representative of a church is that the church has the right to make this decision. And public entities and governments should not be used as tools to interfere with these core ecclesiastical decisions. And it's no fault of yours, but this process is being used as a tool to object to and prevent the Archdiocese and parishioners' choice of which church is going to function here. It began with an attempt to downzone the property into essentially a park so that it could not be sold. That was withdrawn. Every proposal to develop the property has been blocked, including proposals that would have provided for the preservation of the church and 40% affordable housing. One of the city's planning goals, by the way. So that's been blocked. And finally, as the latest effort is a landmark proposal to interfere with any effort to sell the property. And so I think that background is important. I don't think the commission wants to be used as a tool in that fight. And for us, and when we consider our legal rights, which go beyond this proceeding, but perhaps to the next one, the basic religious freedom of the church to decide which will be its parish is something that is at stake for us here. I guess the other thing I want to add or emphasize is the point that, pardon me, Ms. Castle made about community support. It's one of your elements. It's a legitimate factor for you to consider. If you went by the volume of people shouting at some of the hearings, you might think the community supported landmarking. We have submitted to you an exhibit, which is a series of maps taken from the same database. That data records every statement in favor or opposition of landmarking that has been made in the record before the commission. And these maps demonstrate conclusively that the community, that is to say, those who actually live in Pilsen, strongly oppose the landmarking of this property. The bulk of people who propose landmarking and support it are not from that neighborhood, and most of them, many of them, are not even from Chicago. I don't know if the technology will allow you to display this exhibit on the screen. I know we gave you the data. I'd like to display it if we can. Otherwise, we do have boards, which I can show you. Thank you, George. Mr. Kissel will hold the boards. And I just need one. The one on your right is upside down. Thank you. So I'm going to take this from you. This is what I'm holding now is the most complete board. This displays the address of every person who opposed or favored landmarking on the record before this commission. The yellow dots are those who oppose landmarking, and the red dots are those who spoke in favor or submitted forms or statements in favor of landmarking. I think the exhibit speaks for itself. The concentration in Pilsen is where you see all that yellow, and the red scattered all over, even in, I think, is that Lake County or is that Wisconsin? That's Lake County and North Cook County. Those are the proponents of landmarking. Now, that doesn't mean their voices don't matter. I'm not trying to denigrate them by saying they're not from Pilsen. Who they are people who care about a church that their families used to attend. But the actual community at stake opposes landmarking.
All right.
This is just a blow up of Pilsen so that you can see it more clearly, but it's essentially the same point. I see 3 red dots and kind of countless yellow dots in Pilsen. I want to conclude with one last comment. And that is that I know the commission is not here to do harm, and you're following statutory criteria to make your recommendation. And frankly, you have far more expertise on those criteria than I do. But I could say this, while we object vigorously to the entire proposal to landmark this property, we view it as an interference with our right to the freedom of religion, but also on a practical sense, our ability to have sustainable ministry in Pilsen. There is a way to do less harm than by the approval of the landmark proposal as it comes to you. You have the discretion to adjust, alter, and amend this proposal. You have the discretion to recommend less than all of what's been suggested to you. And while we object to all of it, it is more than obvious that you would do less harm if you recommended the landmarking of the facade of the church, which anybody can see has some aesthetic value. If not landmark worthy, it's a very pretty church, than you would if you landmark the whole site, what you call in the proposal the complex. There's really no rational reason to landmark the complex. Mr. Schlacks did not design the complex. He didn't do the site plan. Buildings, most of the buildings are not designed by him. There's no cultural value even, or aesthetic value to any of the other buildings. Again, this was a dispute, and these emotions were presented within the church's own process to appeal the closure of St. Adalbert. This group protested it pursuant to canon law, and the protest went all the way to the Holy See, and they were rejected. The church has made the decision about which site is going to be the ministry. To sit here and debate or have them shout me down in front of you is actually a pretty insulting intrusion on that process. But if I could finish, you would do far less harm to recommend, for your recommendation to be limited to the facade than to the whole complex. There isn't merit in the rest of the site. There's a debatable proposition about the church, but there isn't even a debatable proposition about the rest of the site. From a preservation point of view, you lose nothing. But what you gain at least is the possibility that we can still do a reasonable development proposal after landmarking. So with that, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, just one last thing, which we would certainly bring up in front of City Council, and I should have mentioned earlier. So I want to, be very upfront
Appreciate it.
and explain this concern with you guys as with all of us here. So maybe we can talk it through. As you guys know, in your landmark ordinance, DPD through its commissioner is supposed to provide the commission with a planning report. And the planning report is supposed to accomplish a couple of things. It's supposed to describe how this landmarking fits with city comprehensive plans. And it is also supposed to talk about the effects and impacts on the neighborhood of taking the landmarking action. Last summer, August, September, when the preliminary recommendation was made, we had a different commissioner at DPD, Maurice Cox. We describe in detail, if you look at the May 10th record, what is in that letter. There is a paragraph that describes location. Then there is a paragraph that describes the 18th and Peoria Framework Plan, which has nothing to do with this site. There is a generic paragraph about the Pilsen Historic District, which, as we know, the city did not adopt. There is nothing specific about the property. There is a paragraph about potential TIF modifications, and it wraps up with two sentences, one saying the DPD wants to have design excellence, great, and a final sentence saying that the architecture of this overall site, or maybe they even admit against interest, just the building is significant. That is the sum total of the DPD planning report, talking to you all as commissioners about city comprehensive planning and impacts. What is in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of the May 10th record are descriptions from real live neighbors, parishioners, experts, et cetera, on what the impacts of landmarking will be. And secondly, there is not, I'm not just doing this for theatrics, guys. There is not a single mention of the Pilsen planning reports, the quality of life reports, any of the thoughtful work that the city has, or the cut the red tape report, or any of the comprehensive plans in which the city has set out very admirable goals. Not a word, not a word. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I did forget to ask, does the commission have any questions? Yeah. There are none. Thank you. Thank you. Dan, yeah. Dan, I'm gonna have to remove them if they don't. Thank you. Dan.
Good afternoon. Dan Kleiber with DPD, and with me, my entire Historic Preservation Division.
Hang on. Sorry about this. I went a little out of order. I have to call in Commissioner Rubin for his report first.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
It'll be just a minute. Thank you, Chairman. The public hearing on the proposed landmark designation of the St. Adalbert Parish Complex was held on May 10th at 9:30 a.m. in City Council Chambers, second floor of City Hall. The purpose of the hearing was to gather relevant facts and information to assist the commission in deciding whether the St. Adalbert Parish Complex of 4 buildings meets the criteria for landmark designation set forth in Section 2-120-620 of the Municipal Code. I, Adam Rubin, was the hearing officer on behalf of the commission. Copies of the public hearing transcript, commission chronology documents, public appearance forms, sign-in sheets, written documents, and exhibits have been distributed to all commissioner members. The commission's staff presentation recommending the proposed landmark designation was given by Daniel Kleiber, coordinating planner of the Historic Preservation Division. Daniel's presentation summarized the criteria that the commission found as part of the preliminary recommendation in August of 2023, namely that the designation of the complex met the criteria for heritage, architecture, architect, and unique visual feature. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the commission's rules and regulations allow property owners to question the staff. Representatives of the Archdiocese of Chicago, the owner of the St. Adalbert Parish Complex, availed themselves of this opportunity. James Gioli, in-house counsel for the Archdiocese, and Daniel Meltzer Castle, outside counsel of the Archdiocese, questioned Matt Crawford of the staff on the criteria for landmark designation that the commission identified in its preliminary recommendation. I granted party status to 6 parties in opposition to landmark designation and 1 party in support of the landmark designation at the hearing. As a party in opposition to the designation, the Archdiocese of Chicago's presentation included statements from the Archdiocese attorneys, Mr. Gioli and Ms. Meltzer Castle, expert witness George Kissel of Okrent Kissel Associates, Bishop Robert Lombardo, head of the Archdiocese geographic region that includes St. Adalbart's, and representatives of St. Paul Parish, successor to St. Adalbart's Parish and responsible for its maintenance. At the conclusion of the Archdiocese presentation, Alderman Cicho Lopez of the 25th Ward, which includes the St. Adalbert Parish Complex, made a statement as a party in support of the designation. Parties may question other parties, and the alderman's presentation was followed by questions to him from Mr. Gioli. 5 other individuals not associated with the Archdiocese were also granted party status in the hearing, all in opposition to the designation: Miguel Chacon, Daniel Roman, Andres Sotelo, Ryan Clements, and Jesus Chacon. Of this number, only Miguel Chacon made a statement. During the public comment period, a total of 117 individuals expressed support for the designation. Out of these, 33 made oral statements, either directly or through a translator or representative, while 84 expressed their support in writing. A total of 13 individuals opposed the designation, with 5 making oral statements and 8 submitting their opposition in writing. All individuals who did not make oral statements had their names read into the record at the end of the hearing. The total length of the hearing was approximately 5 hours and 48 minutes, which included an approximately 40-minute lunch break. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rubin. Are there any questions of Commissioner Rubin at this time? From the commission? No? All right, Dan, now you're on. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Dan Kleiber with the Department of Planning and Development. I am here today with the entire Historic Preservation Division as well. I'm here with an overview of the final landmark recommendation of the St. Adalbert Parish Complex located at 1622 to 1658 West 17th Street and 1633 to 1659 West 16th Street. The St. Adalbert Parish Complex is located in the Lower West Side community area, Pilsen neighborhood, and 25th Ward. For orientation, the St. Adalbert Complex consists of 4 buildings on a campus bounded on a city block between Marshfield on the east, Paulina on the west, 17th Street on the south, and 16th Street on the north. Specifically, the proposed landmark designation includes the 4 primary buildings on the campus. The church is right in the middle at 1636 through 40 West 17th Street, as represented by the red star. And just to the west of the church is the rectory at 1646 to 50 West 17th, as represented by the blue star. To the east is the convent at 1626 through 30 West 17th Street, which is the yellow star. And then the school is at 1641 West 16th Street to the north, or the green star. Please note, as we explained in August, there is one building that is excluded from the significant features, and that is this 1-story accessory garage located north of the rectory, as indicated by the purple star. Sorry about that. In August, the commission found that the St. Adalbert Complex meets 4 criteria for Chicago landmark designation, including criterion 1 for heritage. The St. Adalbert Complex is located in Pilsen, a neighborhood within Chicago's Lower West Side community area. This area near the south branch of the Chicago River began to develop when nearby infrastructure projects proved transformative for the Lower West Side. Construction of the Illinois and Michigan Canal, the Southwestern Plank Road, and the Burlington Railway drew in workers, primarily Irish and German immigrants at first, who settled in the area and began building homes and businesses. By the 1850s, the transportation connectivity of the area along with abundant affordable land, made the area particularly well-suited as an industrial manufacturing and distribution hub. Lumber yards, factories, grain elevators, stockyards, and breweries soon sprouted up near the Chicago River, bringing with them a great number of jobs. In the late 1800s, as waves of European immigrants flooded the city looking for work, many of them found it on the Lower West Side. In particular, Bohemian immigrants from the modern-day Czechia and Slovak Republic formed a community in the area and established homes and businesses, including a restaurant called At the City of Pilsen, which gave the new neighborhood its now anglicized name of Pilsen. Around this time, Chicago began experiencing what would become a decades-long wave of immigration of ethnic Poles. Although initially Chicago's Polonia was concentrated on the northwest side, the population soon spread to other areas of the city, largely in pursuit of industrial employment. Due to its abundance of such jobs, Pilsen had by the 1870s its own well-established Polish enclave. Though Chicago's Polonia had successfully formed two of their own Roman Catholic parishes by 1872, both were located several miles away from the rapidly growing Polish community in Pilsen, who desired their own local church. As such, with the help of Bishop Thomas Foley, a new parish dedicated to St. Adalbert of Prague was founded in Pilsen in 1874. Typical of many congregations, the parish did not have many resources in the beginning, and it spent its first years worshiping in an unfinished substructure with a temporary roof and altar until they were able to erect a proper church and school building in 1884 along the east side of Paulina between 16th and 17th Streets. In 1904, Reverend Casimir Gronkowski was appointed pastor of the growing congregation. Born in Poland in 1873, Gronkowski immigrated to the United States at age 20 to study theology. He was ordained as a priest in 1897 and moved to Chicago, initially serving as pastor of St. Salomea Church before coming to St. Adalbert. He grew to be very well regarded and respected by the parish and greater Chicago Catholic community and remained at St. Adalbert for over 50 years until his death in 1957. During that time, he led much of the parish's early growth and years of prosperity. Dedicated to improving the church facilities, Gronkowski oversaw the construction of a still extant addition to the original school building in 1908, a simple three-story brick building that still stands and now serves as a public school. Gronkowski then hired renowned and ecclesiastical architect Henry J. Schlacks to design a grand church. The cornerstone for the new church was laid in 1912 with much fanfare, including a celebratory parade around the neighborhood and a ceremony presided over by Archbishop Quigley. The Chicago Tribune reported that the church is to be one of the finest in Chicago. The new church and its adjoining rectory were completed in 1914 and dedicated on September 20th. At that time, another parade and an elaborate ceremony were held with a reported 50,000 people in attendance at the event. St. Adalbert's majestic new home seemed suitable for such a thriving parish, which established itself as a center of Polish-American life and culture in Pilsen for many decades. In addition to its regular religious services, the church provided social, educational, and recreational opportunities for its congregants, who formed a multitude of clubs and organizations through the years. In addition, the church also frequently hosted visiting Polish dignitaries and invited the public to many cultural events, such as the Polish Week of Hospitality that was part of the 1933 Century of Progress World's Fair. The parish was an anchor for multiple waves of Polish immigrants and eventually their American-born children and grandchildren. At its peak, the parish had a membership of around 4,000 families with over 2,000 students enrolled at St. Adalbert School. In 1928, a three-story convent was constructed to the east of the church that could house up to 52 women. The convent would be the final building of the parish. By the mid-20th century, the Polonia in Pilsen had shifted from an immigrant community to mostly second and third generation Polish Americans who were more financially and culturally well established than their predecessors. Though this new Polonia still had ties to their heritage, the community gradually began dispersing. This outmigration increased in the years following World War II. At the same time, Mexican immigrants began moving to Pilsen, drawn to its affordable housing and job opportunities. As these new residents were Roman Catholic, many were also drawn to join St. Adalbert Parish and continue the traditions of community, family, and faith. Indeed, like the immigrants that preceded them, Pilsen's Mexican-American residents possess a strong sense of cultural pride. In celebration of Mexican heritage, history, culture, and language, neighborhood leaders initiated festivals and celebrations of Mexican food, art, and culture throughout the decades. However, the addition of these new Mexican parishioners was vastly outpaced by the mass outmigration of the local Polish community. And by the 1970s, the congregation at St. Adalbert's had shrunk to 600 families with only 200 students enrolled at its school, and extensive repairs needed to keep the complex functional. In 1974, the Archdiocese of Chicago announced plans to close St. Adalbert and merge the parish with nearby St. Vitus. Through protests and letter-writing campaigns, the parish community pleaded with officials to spare their parish and rallied to raise funds for renovations. After successfully fending off closure of their church, St. Adalbert began taking steps to formally recognize the Mexican heritage of its parishioners. The church initiated a weekly Spanish language mass and dedicated a new shrine to Our Lady of San Juan de los Lagos. St. Adalbert was also one of 8 neighborhood parishes that brought the Mexican tradition of Viva Cruces to Pilsen. This elaborate reenactment of the Way of the Cross, culminating with a procession down city streets, has drawn crowds to Pilsen every Good Friday since 1977. However, the number of parishioners at St. Adalbert continued to wane into the 21st century, and in 2016, the Archdiocese of Chicago once again announced that the St. Adalbert Church would be closed. The final Mass at St. Adalbert Church was celebrated on July 14th, 2019, and was conducted in English, Polish, and Spanish. In addition to heritage, the commission found that the St. Adalbert complex meets criterion 4 for architecture. The crown jewel of the complex is its Henry J. Schlacks designed church at the center of the cohesive campus. The church's distinctive south-facing front facade is dominated by 185 feet high symmetrical bell towers. Each features frosted glass clocks, 2 bracketed cornices supporting decorative arcaded openings, and 4 pediments below a copper cupola crowned by a cross. These towers flank either side of the central portion of the building, which has a grand portico entryway with 7 doorways evenly spaced between 8 smooth columns with Corinthian capitals. The columns support an architrave, which is topped by a row of arcaded clerestory windows. Above this, the facade is set back slightly, so it's flush with the lower entryway's exterior wall, with a prominent rose window with stone detailing that is centered between 4 Corinthian pilasters and capped with a bracketed cornice and ornate pediment with a carved medallion depicting the Virgin Mary and Jesus Christ. This main facade is primarily constructed of cream-colored pressed brick with cream and rose-colored granite, limestone, and terracotta details throughout. The remaining elevations of the church are clearly intended as secondary facades. They have relatively few details apart from some stone arcade windows. The cream-colored brick continues throughout the exterior on all elevations. The St. Adalbert Rectory was constructed in conjunction with the adjacent church building, and as such was designed by Schlacks in a complementary, simplified Renaissance Revival style. It is a 3-story building with a raised basement, all clad in the same cream and rose-colored pressed brick, granite, limestone, and terracotta as the church building. The most notable feature of the south-facing primary facade is its pedimented entry, which is supported by bracketed columns with matching stone pilasters on the exterior wall. A stone balustrade staircase connects this raised first-floor entrance to the sidewalk. The roof is flat with simple terracotta coping with a decorative terracotta belt course below. Similar terracotta blocks surround all the front facade windows, with some split by engaged columns with composite capitals. The remaining elevations of the rectory are clearly intended as secondary facades, the only notable detail being terracotta lintels and 2 small open porches connected to the first floor, one on the east facade and one on the north, both with copper roofs. The cream-colored brick continues throughout the exterior on all elevations. The St. Adalbert Convent building was constructed in 1928 to house the nuns of the parish who operated the parish school. It was designed by architect Paul N. Duca in a simple interpretation of the Renaissance Revival style, which blends harmoniously with the existing church and rectory to its west. It is a 3-story building with a raised basement. Like its adjacent parish buildings, it is clad in cream-colored pressed brick with cream terracotta details. The massing of the building is articulated by slightly recessed sections on either end and an additional, more deeply recessed section at the far west of the building. The south-facing primary facade has a raised first-floor entrance with decorative terracotta molding surrounding the doorway. Just above the first floor, there is an ornamental terracotta cornice that runs across the central section of the building, while above the third floor, there is a larger dentil terracotta cornice that spans all the way across the first recessed sections on both sides. The roof is flat with a very simple terracotta cornice and diamond pattern ornamental masonry below. The rectangular windows on all floors are symmetrical and have simple terracotta sills and flat masonry arches. The 5 windows on the second floor of the central section of the building are unique in that they are comprised of rectangular panes of colorful art glass and round panes depicting religious symbology. These second floor windows are surrounded by round masonry arches with masonry spandrels and keystones, with the center window featuring a cross medallion in place of the standard keystone. The deeply recessed section at the far west end of the building has an additional entrance that is situated mid-level between the basement and first floor. Rounding out the complex, the St. Adelbert School building was constructed in 1908 as an unattached expansion of a then adjacent school building that is no longer extant. The architect designer of this school building is unknown. It is a 3-story building with a north-facing primary facade clad in red pressed brick with yellow pressed brick ornamentation. The far east and west ends of the first floor each have a slightly raised limestone entryway topped with scrolled corbels and a stone cross finial. All 3 floors have simple symmetrical rows of windows with limestone sills. The massing of the building is articulated by 2 slightly recessed sections on either end. The remaining elevations of the school are clearly intended as secondary facades. They have little to no detailing and are clad in common brick. And finally, regarding architecture, while its components were built separately, the resulting complex is a cohesive representation of early 20th century ecclesiastical architecture. The 4 buildings are tied together by architectural characteristics and ornament as well as their functionality. In particular, the use of common material colors, either as primary features of the building's facades or as facade accents, help to unify the complex. The commission also found that St. Adelbert meets criterion 5 as the work of a significant architect. Architect Henry John Schlacks was born in Chicago in 1867. He studied architecture at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and trained as a drafting apprentice at the renowned Chicago architectural firm of Adler and Sullivan before traveling Europe, studying different styles of religious architecture across the continent. Upon his return to Chicago in 1891, Schlacks started an architectural firm with Henry Ottenheimer, a former co-worker from Adler and Sullivan. Though in their early years, Schlacks and Ottenheimer designed all manner of buildings from small-scale residences to sprawling industrial complexes, Schlacks soon found his niche designing Catholic churches and their associated parish buildings, as well as schools, hospitals, and residences. By 1897, Schlacks had established himself as a specialist of Catholic architecture and left his firm to practice independently. In terms of individually designated Chicago landmarks, Schlacks was the architect for St. Gelasius Church, originally St. Clara, at 6401 South Woodlawn. Among Schlacks's other Chicago churches are St. Mary of the Lake on North Sheridan, St. Ignatius in Rogers Park, and All Saints St. Anthony Church on West 28th Place. And although Schlacks is most well known in Chicago for his ecclesiastical buildings for the Archdiocese of Chicago, his body of work also includes secular buildings and other churches throughout the country. At least 3 of Schlacks's buildings are individually listed in the National Register of Historic Places: Curtis Wright Aeronautical University Building in Chicago, the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad Depot in Grand Junction, Colorado, and the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad Station in Salt Lake City, Utah, with countless others listed as contributing to National Register Historic Districts. Finally, Schlacks also taught at Notre Dame University, where he is credited as one of the founders of the school's architecture program. And he started at Notre Dame in 1889, and the program traces its origins to that date. Finally, the commission also found that St. Adelbert is a unique visual feature in the city of Chicago. The St. Adelbert complex encompasses half of a city block and includes a large-scale Renaissance Revival church with two 185-foot towers surrounded by low-scale residential and commercial buildings. It has been a prominent and familiar visual feature of the Pilsen neighborhood for over a century. In addition to the landmark criteria, the commission found that St. Adelbert also meets the separate integrity criterion. The St. Adelbert complex possesses sufficient integrity to convey its historic architectural and cultural significance. The existing buildings of the complex remain in their original locations, and their setting within a low-rise residential neighborhood has stayed remarkably similar given their age. In more recent years, scaffolding was erected by the Archdiocese as part of its effort to maintain the church's facade and towers. Despite this, the buildings of the St. Adelbert complex have largely retained their original character-defining exterior features, materials, and overall design, and therefore sufficiently convey their historic significance. Again, the complex is located in the 25th Ward, and Alderman Byron Cicho Lopez has indicated his support for the designation. And again, in August of 2023, the commission found and recommended that the significant historical and architectural features of the building be preliminarily identified as all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the four buildings that make up the St. Adelbert complex, the church, rectory, convent, and school buildings. Building interiors are excluded from the significant features. In addition, the single-story accessory building located north of the rectory is also excluded from the significant features. For the purposes of Section 2-120-740 of the Municipal Code governing the review of permit applications, the following additional guidelines shall also apply. The Commission's review of proposed work should ensure that the significant historic and architectural features of the exteriors and roof lines of the four buildings are preserved while allowing reasonable change and flexibility to meet new needs in accommodating future uses, including potential new construction on undeveloped portions of the parcel. You now have a final recommendation to that effect, and that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Does the commission have any questions for Dan at this time? Seeing none, Alderman Cicho Lopez, would you like to make a statement, sir?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairman, and I want to thank the committee also for taking into consideration this important item in our community. I welcome everybody also, everybody who has attended this important hearing, and especially to the Commission for their detailed report. Our community appreciates the due diligence and the care for churches that have been built with sweat, blood, and tears. And I think that those spaces that are spaces of worship deserves this attention, and they deserve the consideration, not only of the committee, not only of the commission, but of our community as a whole. So first and foremost, let me also thank. So again, I welcome every single parishioner who has come here from both parishes, St. Paul as well as St. Adelbert. And I tell you, and as I said in my statement before, I would have had the exact same consideration for St. Paul and any other parish in my ward, because every parishioner deserves that. I want to thank again everybody who's come, and I ask them to be patient, to be respectful of one another, because I tell you that times have changed, and we are listening to every single one of you, and I am confident that the Landmark Commission is also hearing all the facts, all the arguments to make the determination. So I ask you to be patient. I ask you to be respectful. I know that we care for every single constituent. All our parishioners and residents deserve that respect and consideration. So let me start with that. And thank you for being here and taking the time to express your opinion. Now, in terms of the landmark consideration, I think that it's important that we do the due diligence. I was here during the presentation, and I'm grateful again for a detailed report that shows that San Adalbert meets the criteria for a landmark designation, and that is an important fact. There has been, of course, disagreements, and I know that this has been public with the Archdiocese of the City of Chicago. I welcome the opportunity, as I said it in my presentation during the landmark hearing. I welcome, and again, I don't know if their scheduler from the Archdiocese is here, but I would like to get on their agenda so that we can discuss a better process. Because again, every single parishioner deserves to be heard, deserves to be included, and deserves to know what is the future of their parish, where they made tremendous and beautiful memories. If there was your confirmation, it was a communion, it was your marriage, it was because you have Sunday services, whatever that was. Communities, immigrant communities in our city, and that's what I'm proud to say, we're a sanctuary city, are treated with dignity and respect. And the generations that came before them did this with so very little. I mean, to me, the stories, we still there are people, and again, I hear the opinions, but I personally have talked to residents who still live in the nearby facility, and they will love to see a plan that hears their ideas, their suggestions, of what is a way to preserve this beautiful church in a way that is dignified and is inclusive of parishioners as well as residents. That's what we intend to do here. Again, I repeat, I know there's some Paul parishioners here. I tell you, I have the same respect and consideration for you, and I'll do everything within my power to make sure that the Archdiocese is at the table to address the concerns and issues that you may have. What I tell you is that today in front of us, we have an opportunity not only to preserve a beautiful landmark because the criteria indicates that, but we do have the opportunity to bring together our community that has been fragmented for so long. I mean, to me, it is concerning when xenophobic comments are made that because you don't live there, because you are no longer there, that your voice doesn't matter. I think that that is inappropriate. I do think that, and again, as a resident of the 25th ward, I tell you, myself, sometimes I've been questioning if I live in the ward because immigrants are oftentimes dehumanized and are undermined, but their contributions, if you're Polish, if you're Mexican, if you're Asian, whatever you came from, we value the tremendous contributions. And San Adalbert, it is a beautiful contribution to the history and the architecture of our beautiful Pilsen community. Again, I welcome, because my goal here is not to bring people, not to create more conflict, more issues where community. So again, everybody is entitled to their opinion. And what we want to make sure is that we bring our communities together, parishioners who share the same goals. And I tell you, they even share the same faith. I tell you, I have no intention to create any more conflict. And that's why I'm asking here publicly, and the Archdiocese here, Mr. Walden, and their attorneys. We've been waiting. You have all my letters. And I want to make sure that we have a conversation about the way forward. And I know that many of you actually do not live in my community. And I ask you, I have respect for my community. I'm asking you, Mr. Walden, I have respect for my community. So, and I tell you that our community that has a strong Catholic faith, that has been there for generations, deserves an opportunity to preserve the building, but also preserve the spirit of our immigrant community that carries each other back to back. The Polish community has built a beautiful church, and our Mexican community is trying to preserve the neighborhood. So I ask I ask again that, and I just, yesterday, I shared, and I week public on this because, everybody's entitled to their opinions, but because there has been so much animosity that I think, in my opinion, is unnecessary. Because we can come together. So I ask the chief of staff of the mayor of the city of Chicago, who has been collaborative, who has every intention to find a middle ground, to bring us together with the archdiocese, with our office, with our parishioners and residents. We met with the 25th Ward stakeholders. Every stakeholder, all the community leaders in our community are determined to work together on a joint effort to make this possible. So I ask of the commission the favor of support to give us a chance to fight for our community, to preserve our community, but also preserve the beautiful people that have made this possible, and for generations to come, to be able to see what many people have contributed to make our neighborhood, the beautiful neighborhood that today we are fending off to protect and preserve. This is an effort to do just that, and my commitment to work with the commissioner and the archdiocese, or parishioners, residents, and any organization to make this possible and to repurpose the parish with respect, with dignity, with the support and open doors and open policy, so our parishioners and residents come together and they can see with transparency what is going to be the future. We don't know yet, but I tell you, you have my commitment that you be heard, you be respected, and this is the beginning of a step forward, because our community deserves to have a landmark of the statue of St. Adalbert. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alderman. Does the commission have any questions for Alderman Sigcho Lopez? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. I'm going to reiterate this at the time for public comment was at the public hearing on May 10th. We are going to take public comments right now. I'm going to ask very respectfully that you keep your comments short. Please do not repeat what other people say. But you can certainly state your name and the position that you're taking when I do call your name. I'm going to start with, these are the folks that signed up to speak. I'm going to call you up 5 at a time, so if you could line up at the microphone, I'd appreciate that. Rosemarie Dominguez, Emily Cortina, Martha Pacheco, Mary Gonzalez, and Donna Graves. Three minutes. Go.
Hello. Can you hear me? My name
Yes.
is Rosemary Dominguez, and I'm with the St. Adalbert Preservation Society, a nonprofit established and handpicked by St. Adalbert Polish and Latino parishioners long before the deconsecration and closing of St. Adalbert in 2019. St. Adalbert was the second Catholic parish brought to the city of Chicago, placed in the Pilsen community by the Polish people, not by the Archdiocese of Chicago. The $175,000 investment built the marvelous structure you see erected, unfortunately covered in scaffolding that was put in place by a poor administration decision. The St. Adalbert facade isn't the only jaw-dropping aspect of the church. The marble exterior pours into the interior, and I am sorry for all those on the committee here today that have never had the opportunity to step inside the parish. If only you got to see and experience the sight of the portraits, the glass stained windows, and the saints and the Pieta that was destroyed in the process of her removal by St. Paul administration. I implore you all to consider landmarking, as it would mean a significance for all those here who live in proximity of the church and the Polish community that's here and alive, who are physical living testaments of what their families brought to Chicago and brought to Pilsen. In addition, Landmark will allow us to consider means to work with the Archdiocese after being constantly rejected, and more importantly, to build community with the St. Paul parishioners as well. St. Adalbert would always house the 7 local parishes together for the Via Crucis because of its vast size. We hope that St. Adalbert can still be a means of glue if landmarked, where you all and others can appreciate the remains of the cultural historic architecture significance in the heart of Pilsen. Remember this is about preserving the cultural structure and the communal preservation, and not about the overall sale of the $10 million deficit or debt that St. Paul has acquired and has yet to pay back. Thank you.
Emily Cortina.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Cortina. I'm a resident of the 25th Ward. My children attend public school in the 25th Ward, and I oppose the landmarking of St. Adalbert. My great-grandparents immigrated from Poland to the Chicago area at the end of the 1800s. When St. Adalbert and many other churches were built to serve the Polish community. My great-grandfather passed his faith on to my grandfather, who passed it on to my mother, who passed it on to me. It is a faith that calls me to care for my neighbors, especially those most in need, to fight for justice for the oppressed, to lift my voice in praise and joy and gratitude for the love of God alive in creation, and to love those who persecute me. This is the heritage that my ancestors passed on to me. This is the heritage I wish to keep alive. And I practice this faith within the community of St. Paul, the only parish. There are not 2 parishes. There is no St. Paul and St. Adalbert. There is one parish. Landmarking St. Adalbert and choosing to preserve this building cripples our ability to preserve the faith that this building was built to propagate. I implore you to oppose this landmarking. Thank you.
Martha Pacheco.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Gonzalez. I am a longtime resident of Pilsen. I'm 83 and I moved into Pilsen when I was 17, and I never abandoned my community nor my parish. I'm a member of St. Paul. I'm an active member of St. Paul, and I want to say one important thing. I'm not only a registered member, I'm a dues-paying member. I financially support the church. I support the church with my activities. I support the church with my energy. I support the church with my prayer. That is what a parishioner is. So I agree with the alderman that we've all got to work together. But there are not parishioners of St. Paul and parishioners of St. Adalbert. St. Adalbert has been closed for 9 years. Now, there is no doubt. I agree that. Hey, respect the speaker. I agree that people should work hard to maintain their culture. Certainly that's important to me as a Mexican American. That's important. And I think that the Polish community should maintain it. What I don't like about this proposal is it puts the burden, the financial burden, on the Mexican community of St. Paul, who are in fact your constituents. And that's what bothers me. The majority of the people supporting this are not constituents of the 25th Ward. Many of them don't live here, don't pay taxes in Chicago. And today, let me finish. Today, as we walked in, my granddaughter, who's 16 years old, was approached and said, if you're a member of St. Paul, you're not a Catholic. My 8-year-old granddaughter the devil was mentioned to her as maybe that's why she was here. I don't understand what's going on, but I'll tell you one thing that's happened. There is terrorism going on in this project, and no one is speaking about the terrorism that we are experiencing. A man who was agitated by people right here who picket us every week, they agitated him, and I feel sorry for him. He needs mental health care. And they agitated him without him understanding why, and he stormed into our mass, 10 o'clock mass, where we had 200 people, tons of children, terrorized the entire place. We were terrified. People ran out of the church as quickly as they could. And then the people who instigated him said, oh, he pushed us around and took our signs. That is not the truth. We have witnesses who witnessed the whole thing. So now the young man comes back the following day, plants signs on our door, on the church door. The following day, he shows up in the office. So we finally had to call the police. But this, we don't. Wait a minute. This is not the way we want to live as Catholics. This is not
Settle down. Mary Gonzalez. Oh, sorry. Donna Graves.
Hello? The microphone, oh, there it is. Hello, first of all, to the members of the Landmarks Commission, I want to apologize to you that your day is interrupted with screaming and protests. And I want to apologize because I know what it feels like, because every Sunday our masses are interrupted with protests and screaming. And I also want you to know that we have had many community meetings about this. Every Sunday at Mass, the community gets together and we all talk about it. And our alderman has not hosted one community meeting with the parishioners of St. Paul who are responsible for that building to ask us if we want it landmarked. In fact, members of our community have notified the alderman and the local politicians to say that St. Paul stands against the landmark with many, many signatures, and your own commission has received emails as early as today, still coming in from people who are giving you their addresses and information and telling you, we in the community oppose the landmarking of St. Adalbert's because we know that you are being used to advance a whole different agenda. And we know what that feels like. It happens to us on Sundays, and what my mother described here, Mary's my mom, what she described here on Sunday did happen to us. And what is...
Hey,
Sorry, I want to give them...
go ahead.
My children are here. They hear people tell me, shame on you. At the last hearing, I was called an idiot. I was told I'm going straight to hell. These are the things that Catholics are saying, and these are the people that you are listening to. These are the people who's you're paying attention to. And what I want you to know is that the residents of Pilsen have not been at the prior hearings in droves because we are busy doing work in the community, the work that the community needs done, helping the hungry, helping the homeless, ministering to the families, violence prevention work for youth, gang-involved youth, prison ministry. We are very busy in the community, serving the community, and we stand here representing the community. There are many of us here today. We are wearing 25th Ward buttons, and we are asking you today to vote no on the landmarking of a building that will never again become a church.
Thank you. I'd like to call out, these are some of the folks that have indicated I want to call out their names in regard to them being in favor of the project, but do not wish to speak. Tomas Kersevsky, Margot Dumel, Iwa Kozmeski, Joanne Yasus, and Helena Kerslawa. Next 5 people to sign up to speak: Edward Korecki, Ward Miller, Gregory Galuzzo, Brad Graves, and Melody Potempa. Edward Korecki.
Okay, this is.
No, okay. Well, football.
Wait. Okay, I'm Margot Dumel, and my mother Dorothy Dumel is going to be speaking.
Yes. Well, football stadiums.
I'm
casinos,
sorry.
And other
Uh,
temples of popular culture are being erected in the secular world. Beautiful
I'm sorry.
churches are being torn down.
I am sorry. I'm calling on Edward Korecki. Thank you.
Let her go first. She can't stand up, okay?
Do I
Can you,
start?
can you indicate your name and?
Okay,
Say your name.
I can't hear.
Okay. Dorothy Dumel. She's 93 and she grew up across the street from the church.
Dorothy Do.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. All right. Well, football stadiums, casinos, and other temples of popular culture are being erected in the secular world. Beautiful old churches are being torn down, deconsecrated, and otherwise defaced and plundered. I'm here today urging that landmark status be given to St. Adalbert's in Pilsen, my church. It was a lively and vibrant parish in its heyday. The church's complex occupied almost a whole city block, and it even included, in its earlier days, an orphanage. And of course, a school taught by nuns educated by many sisters and brothers and me. And I was the youngest in a family of 12, as well as 3 of my own children in the 1960s. We were baptized there. We made our first Holy Communions there, our confirmations there, and some of us were even married there. So the roots are deep and abiding. Even with the unfortunate removal from the church of a full-scale replica of Michelangelo's Pieta and imposing stained glass windows of saints, there should be an acknowledgement of the part St. Adalbert played in the community and have it remain a part of that community today. I strongly urge it to be given landmark status because they just don't build them like that anymore.
Thank you. Edward Korecki.
Get up.
Hello, my name is Edward Koretsky, and I'm a resident of Chicago. I think it's disgraceful the way the Archdiocese pits one church against another for the purpose of destroying God's house and profiting from it instead of working with us to save it. St. Adalbert Church is the architectural jewel of the Pilsen neighborhood and is under grave danger of destruction. Parts of this beautiful church have already been desecrated by those who do not respect our history or the sacred value of God's house. I request that the members of the commission show respect for Chicago's immigrant history and protect this architectural treasure for future generations. Please landmark the entire St. Adalbert property and the interior and exterior of the church. The Society of St. Adalbert has a financially viable plan to protect the church in perpetuity, using the convent as a bed and breakfast to generate income to protect the church as a shrine. I've gone door to door in the Pilsen neighborhood surrounding St. Adalbert Church, speaking with residents, and there is overwhelming support for protecting the church. Please landmark the whole complex today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ward Miller. Ward. If you could line up Gregory Galusio, Brad Graves, and Melody Potempa. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wong, members of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, Commissioner Boatright. I'm Ward Miller, the Richard H. Driehaus Executive Director of Preservation Chicago, a nonprofit Chicago-based organization. We are before you today to request your consideration and support for the Chicago landmark designation of St. Adalbert's Roman Catholic Church Complex located at 1622 to 1658 West 17th Street and 1633 to 1659 West 16th Street in the Pilsen community. We at Preservation Chicago fully support the published report on the public hearing, the final landmark recommendation, and the City of Chicago's Department of Planning and Development's report for the St. Adalbert's Church and Parish Complex of 4 structures on the campus. This includes the church, rectory, convent, and school buildings. St. Adalbert has been a perennial nomination to our Preservation Chicago 7 Most Endangered for many years, dating back to 2014 and continuing in 2016, 2019, and 2021. This grandly scaled Renaissance Revival and Basilica-style church is one of Chicago's finest ecclesiastical structures and designed by one of Chicago's most recognized and important ecclesiastical architects, Henry Schlacks. Schlacks worked in the firm of Adler and Sullivan, and his buildings are widely recognized for their architectural merit and both monumental and inspiring designs. Schlacks was so widely regarded for being able to reinterpret some of Europe's finest churches, cathedrals, and basilicas to proportions that would fulfill the program and limitations for his Chicago commissions. These qualities are evident and so beautifully executed at St. Adalbert Church, which is considered the mother church of Chicago's South Side Polish community when it was constructed, and until its closure, an important and recognized sacred site by all. Schlacks was also responsible for establishing the architecture program at Notre Dame University, which still thrives today and recognizes the importance of classical architecture, its scale and proportions. Schlacks was the founder and genesis of this program at Notre Dame. His commission at St. Adalbert and St. Paul's, ironically, which is now part of the same parish, is also recognized as one of Chicago's great houses of worship. And it's our professional opinion that both St. Adalbert and St. Paul should be considered for this great Chicago landmark designation honor, and both churches should be recognized as Chicago landmarks looking to the future. We are hoping that you will proceed forward with the designation of this important church and complex that anchors and is the cornerstone of the Pilsen community, along with St. Paul's to the west, which anchors another section of Chicago, the heart of Chicago, and the nearby communities there. We ask for your protection and landmark designation today. Thank you.
Gregory Galuzio.
I think it was a beautiful building. It is deteriorating rapidly. 9 years being abandoned. This building is a financial sinkhole. Millions and millions of dollars would be required to restore it to even usefulness. I do not think this is policy. I think it's a poison pill. We cannot proceed with what to do with the property, what to do with the building, when you're strapping us with requirements that architectural niceties have to be protected. We cannot proceed with making it a center for immigrants, a center for low-income housing. How can we have a reasonable conversation with you actually forcing us to spend millions and millions of dollars, which we don't have, which people who want to put that much money in it have not come forward with it. So why don't you let the process of people discussing what to do with the building come up with money? It's nice to talk about architectural niceties, but we are living underneath a deteriorating, collapsing building with already one dead person being found, 2 at the base of it. Give us a chance to just logically, not fanciful considerations. There isn't money to rebuild it. There isn't money, there isn't a congregation to support it. That's simple as that. They left. And even if they returned, well, how much longer will they be able to continue to even participate? Are you asking for the church to be reopened? Are you asking for the church? See, and Byron is duping them. He is not going to help them get the church open. You need about $10 million and you need a congregation to support it. He's not promising them that. He's not. He likes to smirk at his own constituents. Sorry, Byron, you're not going to give them the money. You're wanting some other agenda to be fulfilled with what you want, not what they want and not what we want. Okay? And you don't have the money to do anything about it. Maybe the city will give it. But this is not policy. This is a poison pill.
Brad Graves. Could you state your name, please?
My name is Melody Potempa, and I am a resident of the city of Chicago. I am a second-generation Polish American. I thank Mr. Rubin and the commissioners for the consideration of the landmarking. I am holding a souvenir keychain commemorating the 140th anniversary of St. Adalbert. The back of it says, St. Adalbert Church, 140th anniversary, founded 1874, which of course we have discussed. Let us not forget that this church, along with its very rich immigrant and Pilsen history, was built for the better glory of God. The original immigrant families, many working long hours, donated from their meager wages. Many even worked on the construction of the current church after long hours at their regular jobs and in dangerous or unsanitary conditions in those jobs. We are now in the 150th year of St. Adalbert, and I know the church is closed. I understand the consolidation of the parishes, but it's still there. And we from the Polish community still see it as one of our Polish cathedrals. Let us not curtail its future, and in remembering its original purpose, serving the glory of God. Let us not put God in a box as we consider landmark status. Thank you.
Thank you. Brad Graves, please.
Brad Graves. I'm a resident of the 25th Ward, and we've seen really nice pictures in heyday talk, and I get that and absolutely respect it. Absolutely respect it. But I don't know if anybody's been there recently. It's what's being fought to preserve here today is a continuation of vandalism and crime, and we've pulled two dead bodies off that property. There's multiple sleeping bags that have been taken out of there, people that are doing drugs, and it's a continuation. This is absolutely fact. This is fact. Okay. So so what we're preserving and allowing time and years to go by are things that our children shouldn't be around. That's what we're preserving here.
Thank you. The next few people have signed up but don't wish to speak. Roberto Zinta is opposed to the project. Mary Graves is opposed to the project. Demarsta Wolada Slawa is in favor of the project. Camila Zarita is opposed to the project. Anina Jabalski is in favor of the project. Oh, sorry. Oh, Okay. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, my name, I put my name on, but I didn't get called to speak. Is there, my name still there?
There's a long list.
Oh, okay, all right. no
There's a
problem.
huge, long list. I'm sorry, Roberto, these are the folks that signed up to speak. Sorry. Mary Graves, Demarzga Ladislawa, Camilla, Zarita, Anina Jabowski. Go ahead, if you could start, please.
Sí, por eso.
State your name, please.
Mi nombre es Roberto Zurita,
My name is Roberto Zurita,
residente del vecindario de Pilsen.
resident of the Pilsen neighborhood.
Estoy aquí por el motivo de lo que está pasando ahora en nuestra parroquia y en el barrio.
I'm here because of what's happening in our parish and in our neighborhood.
Voy a hablar de lo más reciente.
I'd like to speak about the most recent.
Este domingo pasado, estando en la puerta de la iglesia,
This past Sunday, when I was standing in the doors to our church,
como cada domingo están las personas que están protestando,
just like every Sunday, there were protesters outside.
están hablando con los feligreses y con cada persona que están pasando, están interrumpiendo nuestras actividades.
Talking to the members of our church and to people passing by.
Están nuestros hijos, están nuestras familias alrededor. Estoy muy preocupado por esto.
Our children and our families are nearby, and this worries me greatly.
Este domingo pasó una persona, estuvo hablando con las personas que están protestando.
This past Sunday, there was a gentleman speaking with the protesters.
Muy preocupado yo.
I was very worried.
Miré que esta persona se metió a la iglesia corriendo con los cartelones que tienen los protestantes.
I saw this person run into the church holding the posters that the protesters had been holding.
Se paró frente al altar interrumpiendo la misa de cada domingo.
He stood in front of the altar, interrupting the mass service that was taking place.
Yo como ujier y como feligrense les damos la bienvenida a todo mundo. Todos son bienvenidos a nuestra parroquia, a nuestra iglesia.
Me, as an usher, I welcome and offer hospitality to every person who walks through the doors of our church.
Pero estuve preocupado al ver esta persona correr, pararse frente al altar. No sabíamos si traía un arma o traía algo. Era algo muy peligroso, estando frente nuestros hijos, nuestras familias.
I was very worried though when I saw this man run to the front of church. We didn't know if he had a weapon, if he was planning to attack us. I was very worried.
Ahora, entrando aquí a esta junta, las mismas personas nos están gritando, nos están criticando. Esto es lo que nos preocupa, que sigamos con todo esto. Ya queremos parar y queremos la mejor solución. Queremos lo mejor para nuestro barrio.
Now here today, we are facing the same people who are yelling at us and insulting us, and we want this to stop. We want to find the best solution for everyone.
Para nuestras personas, para nuestros hijos que están creciendo en nuestro barrio.
For our people, for our children who are growing up in this neighborhood.
No importa la nacionalidad, lo que importa es quién está creciendo en el barrio.
Your time is up.
Nationality does not, what?
Time is up. Mary Graves.
Hello. My name is Mary Graves. I am 14 years old. I am a new graduate of St. Anne's School. I remember when our church closed. It was because we didn't have enough money to keep it open, much like the situation with the Delberts. Me and my friends were upset. We grew up going to that church, but St. Paul didn't let it go forgotten. It took some of the stained glass windows and made a chapel for us to go to. They offered us to come to St. Paul for a mass each week, just for our school. The difference between our problems of churches closing is that we understood that it wasn't St. Paul's fault for St. Anne closing. The Archdiocese had grouped our churches together, and so now we had to take care of each other, as the Lord wants us to treat each other, with love and kindness. We all believe in God. We all want to go and pray in Mass, and all this fighting is horrible. Believe me when I say this, please. I am so, so sorry that your church closed. That is horrible. I am so sorry. But this fighting is getting out of hand. I went to Mass this past Sunday, and again, there are protesters outside of our church. On my way in, I see my friends getting ready to altar serve. Mass starts, and we're almost done with Mass when a man comes in with signs given to him by the protesters, and the signs protest our church. He goes up and charges the altar, where my family, friends, and priest is. Our parishioners are up immediately, trying to put themselves between my family, friends, and priest. This man starts physically trying to get by and pushing people. I watch my friends, who must be no older than 12 and 9, running away, trying to get away from what's happening. In that moment, all I see is fear in everyone's eyes, not knowing what's going to happen. Why is it that in a place that should be safe, we are afraid? Why? I am 14 years old, and I'm worried about going to church and getting yelled at by protesters, much like I am right now and today. But treating us so horribly and with such nastiness has come from all of you here. Telling parishioners that they're going to go to hell, that they're a bitch, that they're an asshole. All we have done is try to welcome you, and all we get is this. Our church is full of young life. We don't want to landmark St. Adalbert's. St. Paul will cripple with debt and preservation prices. So please, let's not landmark St. Adalbert's. Vote no.
Demarska Vladislava. Demarska Vladislava.
Hello, my name is Camila Zurita. I'm 16 and the oldest of 6. I'm scared to go to church now because the people of St. Adalbert's, they're scaring me, and I'm like, what's gonna happen? Okay, I love my church. It's welcoming. We could welcome you guys. We're open arms, but we don't accept violence. I'm scared of my little siblings seeing you guys, and I don't want you guys to hurt them. In church, this guy comes running. Who knows if he's armed? I hate it when you guys are disrespecting my mom, and she is working her best. And I'm scared because I am 16. I don't want to hear any negativity to my family from church, everyone, the community. We are done with negative comments, you guys calling us a bitch and saying we're going to go to hell. Today, I heard you guys. Today, someone came up to me and said, if you go to St. Paul, you are not a Catholic. Well, it's okay. God's in my heart, and I know that. I love my church, and if it goes down, it's fine, because God is in my heart. And we need to stop. If you guys want to listen, we want to listen to you guys. We cannot with violence. And I'm done with that. And we are done with that. And we are scared. And my siblings are scared. And I've been thinking about this guy and the things he's done to us. Scares me because I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know if you guys know where we live. And I'm scared. I am really scared. And I don't want anything to happen to my family or anyone. And my church is my heart. And I'm really sorry about your guys' church. We are. But we don't have the money. And if you guys are going to raise it, that's completely fine. But we don't have the money or the resources. And the thing that happened on Sunday, my dad was there. My mom and my 2 dads. I got scared. I'm like, if anything happens, I don't know how I'm going to react. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to say it one more time. If these outbursts continue, I'm going to clear this gallery. We're going to be done with this.
Nazywam się Bronisława Stękała, 4745 South Kilpatrick, Chicago.
My name is Bronisława Stękała, and I live at 4745 South Kilpatrick in Chicago.
Kochani bracia i siostry, szanowna komisjo.
My dear brothers and sisters and our dear revered commission.
Wszyscy jesteśmy przez Jezusa umiłowani i
We are all loved by Jesus.
i Jego najświętszą krwią odkupieni.
and redeemed by his blood.
Jedni Boga miłujemy, inni prześladujemy.
Some are revered by God. Przepraszam, niech pani.
Prześladujemy.
Inni prześladujemy. Others are persecuted.
Niszcząc świątynie, zamykając kościoły.
Destroying a temple and closing churches.
Jak wspomniałam, Kościół Świętego Wojciecha to budowla historyczna.
St. Adalbert Church is a historic building.
To relikwia wiary
It's a relic of our faith.
naszych ojców, praojców, emigrantów.
Our fathers, our forefathers, all immigrants.
Nie boję się tego określenia użyć w imieniu swoim i w moich wnuków.
I don't fear to use this term in the name of my children and grandchildren.
Aby dzisiaj, jutro, na wieki został zabytkiem ten Kościół Świętego Wojciecha.
For now, for the past and for the future, that this become an official landmark of the city of Chicago.
I chociażby doszło do tego,
And even if it came to pass,
że wiara w Jezusa Chrystusa będzie tak bardzo prześladowana i zwalczana,
if faith in Jesus is fought against,
kolejne kościoły będą zamykane,
that future other churches will also be closed,
to Kościół Świętego Wojciecha powinien zostać i być dla ludu jako zabytek miasta Chicago.
that the building of St. Adalbert Church remain as an official landmark of the city of Chicago,
Wierzącego w Boga jedynego, wszechmocnego Jezusa Chrystusa.
in believing in Jesus Christ our Lord,
Jako mur płaczu dla braci żydowskich.
as a wailing wall for our Jewish brothers and sisters.
Myślę też, że z tego budynku i z tych budynków nigdy nie będzie getta, jak w Oświęcimiu.
We will not allow to happen here what was done in Auschwitz.
Jeżeli zostanie zniszczona, to nigdy już nie powstanie. Jeżeli zostanie zniszczony, to nigdy już nie powstanie.
If it's destroyed, it will never rise again.
Thank you. Thank you. Time is up. I want to confirm, Bronislawa, Dan, can you help me out? No, Dan, can you help me out? This was, what was her name again?
Bronisława Stękała.
Thank you.
Yes, 4745 South Kilpatrick.
Thank you. Demar, time is up. Demara.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Władysława Domaracka. I demand that my church will stay as a landmark. This is a pearl of Polish and Chicago culture. I was 3 weeks in Poland. I came when Pieta was taken from St. Adalbert and St. Paul. I am protesting every Sunday across from church St. Paul. A priest, he was talking with us very often. People bring us coffee, tea, never heavy argument, nothing. We are very quiet. These people was talking about us, we bother. No, believe me, we never bother. We pray. We wanted back church St. Adalbert when was stolen Pieta from St. Adalbert church. No permit, nothing. And we protesting because father, first time he says, I bought Pieta on the south. Later he said, I saved Pieta because we afraid broke this Pieta. People from church, Mexican people talking with us, what is talking father in the church is shame because I am honest, many times I was called priest, windows open, water is leaking, quiet nothing. You can ask Father, he is here. I am not liar. God bless America. Thank you so much.
Anina,
Anina Jacobowski.
thank you.
And I live at 7225 Webster Street in Downers
you.
Grove, which means my little red dot is over
Thank you.
there. However, I am part of the community. I don't believe it has to be in a location. A community is a group of people that have the same principles and causes. So let me get that out there. But I do want to say back in 1974, Cardinal Cody also attempted to close St. Adalbert's. My mother stood on the steps of the water tower building and gave a speech. And that speech was that we were being duped by the diocese. We were being fooled into this whatever. Needless to say, it's reminiscent now of what they went through then. All I'm asking the Landmark Committee is, you know, it's 50 years. 50 years that we've been waiting. They requested landmarking. Alderman Puchinsky put in a request for landmarking. And it's 50 years. How much longer do we have to wait for this? Please, I beg you, please do what's right for us and landmark this. This church was a gift to the people of Chicago, not only to Catholics and future generations of the parishioners, but a gift to the city of Chicago. Start landmarking these beautiful churches. They make up the core of communities. We've heard that said. We landmark movie theaters. We landmark signs for Little Village. We landmark, come on, the churches. Churches were built as churches, and that's what they should remain. And as far as this ownership, we all know that they were built by people for people. Please do what's right, and we'll thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. The following people had signed up. They are do not wish to speak. Dominic Rudnitsky, favor of the project. Delenta, I can't read that, is also in favor of the project. Teresa Antis, also in favor of the project. Maria Kogel, also in favor of the project. Mariana Swabel, also in favor of the project. The following people, please line up to speak. Maria Piccola, ZBIG NIEW, Rodak, Maria O'Neill, Carla Rodriguez, Anna Lea. You don't line up to speak, you're not speaking. Let me read that again. Maria Piccola, Zabignew Podak, Maria O'Neill, Carla Rodriguez, Anna Leha. Please state your name.
Zbigniew Rodak. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have a great pleasure to speak to you all in the past. St. Albert has a great mining. We would love to continue practicing our faith with him, our self, family, and community. This church has a special meaning to our family because of my father comment to St. Albert when he first came to this state. So please vote and bring to us this church back and next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Pacola.
Maria O'Neill. Our Lord is the way, the truth, and the life. For those who pretend to be our shepherds, but lost the way, bend in the truth, and have no life. He is the resurrection. We, humanity, have only one enemy, and this is the fallen angel that refused to listen to God and to serve us. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And to the Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruins of souls. Amen.
Thank you. Next speaker,
Maria Piccola, 838 North Noble, apartment 1506. Ja bardzo proszę o to, żeby ten kościół był w landmarku.
She's asking to landmark the church. She's asking very much to landmark the church.
I poza tym tu jest siedzi ksiądz, który jest winien oddania piety, jest winien oddania witraży i jest winien oddania 6 milionów. I teraz, których nam nie dał na remont tego kościoła. I on jest teraz w poważnych długach. I dlatego chce, żeby ten kościół zamknąć, ponieważ ma obiecane tam parę groszy. I to jest taki złodziejski, bandycki numer.
The priest who is responsible for closing St. Adalbert's Church, responsible for removing the stained glass windows and the pieta, also his church is in trouble now, and he's sitting right here. So he was also given $6 million for the repair of St. Adalbert's, and the money is gone.
To jest mała sprawa, którą teraz jeszcze chcę poruszyć, że my od kilku lat jesteśmy zawsze pod kościołem St. Albert i zawsze modlimy się w piątki i w niedzielę. I tam jest zawsze porządek, zawsze jest dekoracja, zawsze są ludzie, którzy są wierni. I poza tym są ludzie, którzy siedzą w niedzielę pod katedrą i są ludzie, którzy siedzą pod kościołem u ojca, który miał się opiekować tym kościołem, a ukradł pietę. I tam też się ludzie modlą. Także my nie jesteśmy takim community, które nie istnieje i które się nie modli, któremu na niczym nie zależy. Jesteśmy community, którym zależy na tym, żeby ten kościół powstał.
The community of congregants of St. Adalbert's are always praying in front of church every Friday night and also in front of the cathedral every Sunday. And in front of the church, closed church, there are always flowers and votive candles, and we are taking care of it. And we are always praying the rosary.
Teraz ja chcę powiedzieć. Ten kościół jest bardzo piękny, ponieważ ma podwójną organę, ma przepiękną.
The church is very beautiful and very important organs.
Jest
Okay.
muzyka.
thank you. Thank you. Carla Rodriguez or Anna Leha? Okay. The following people have,
My name is Anna Leah, and I am a part of congregation of the now closed St. Adalbert Church. St. Adalbert Church stands out as a symbol of our Polishness, spiritual and material heritage. The heritage that is one of the building blocks in the rich diversity of Chicago's divergent cultures. The heritage that we gladly share for the benefit of all. Out of many rosary societies that were established in St. Adalbert Parish sprang several important organizations
that became influential not only in Chicago, but also in other states, and influential not only in Polish community, but also in other ethnic groups. One of such organizations was Polish Women's Alliance of America that sprang all over the United States. Another one was a Roman Catholic organization of church. Churches are very necessary for all believers to find spiritual refuge, especially in troubled times. St. Adalbert Church has functioned as religious, moral, and spiritual guidance for many generations of Polish and Latino Catholics. Members of those congregations still pray in front of the closed church. The magnificent church with towers visible from afar must be saved, so we now and those who come after us can appreciate the awesome beauty of past architecture and history. In closing, let me repeat quotation from National Trust for Historic Preservation. America's historic sites are irreplaceable. Once they are gone forever. Ladies and gentlemen of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, I implore you to vote in favor of granting the inside and outside landmarking status with the requirement of returning all items like stained glass windows, religious paintings, and statues thus far removed from the church to St. Adalbert's. I deeply appreciate opportunity to express my opinion, and I thank the City of Chicago and the Commission on Chicago Landmarks for allowing this testimony. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The following people have signed up, do not wish to speak. Dominic Fager is opposed to the project. Rosalinda Ruiz, also opposed to the project. Irina Kazendov is in favor of the project. Maria Elena can't pronounce that either, is opposed to the project. Kinga Prehan is in favor of the project. Alicia Robles is opposed to the project. Lucinda Rostowska is in favor of the project. Teresa Zaborniak in favor of the project. Rosa Diaz is in favor of the project. Monica Pavone opposed to the project. Maria Mendez is in favor of the project. Vanessa Strack is in favor of the project. Alfred Aguilar in favor of the project. Sophia Stolpian in favor of the project. Next 5 people, if you could line up to speak. Sadwika Walinska, Rosa Ibanez, Michael Watson, Gersban Anastasia. If you don't line up, you're not speaking, so I suggest you start lining up there. Ziggy Tamal, Jennifer Carlin Mills. You could go ahead and.
Hello, my name is Michael Watson, speaking in favor of landmarking. I was, some time ago, I was in Europe, hanging out with some of my European friends, and I showed them a picture of St. Adalbert and said, and explained the situation, and they were flabbergasted, although they didn't find it unusual that Americans wouldn't want to save something historic, but they were flabbergasted because they said, no, in our country, we would never let such a building be sold off or be destroyed. And so I'm here asking for the landmarking of St. Adalbert. Those of us who want to save St. Adalbert, we are here because of love. And I speak of caritas or agape, that is willing the good of the other and willing the good of the common good. Also, storgia that's Greek coming from C.S. Lewis, passion and affection. And unfortunately, sometimes our affections get the better of us. But when you see something beautiful to be destroyed or possibly sold off, repurposed for something that is anathema to what it should stand for, emotions become provoked. And so I would also like to point out that Renew My Church is why these two groups are fighting each other so much. Renew My Church is a central plan. And like most, if not all central plans, and I speak as an economist, I'm a professor of economics, you look into the history of central planning, it creates zero-sum scenarios. We have a zero-sum scenario between St. Paul's and those who want to save St. Adalbert's because the Archdiocese has given us no solution. There's a principle in Catholic social thought that the Archdiocese of Chicago has ignored. It's called subsidiarity. Go look it up. It means people at the local level make local decisions. Archdiocese of Chicago should help us and support the common good, but they should not tell us what to do. And over, I hear priests say this: renew my church, blank my parish. I won't cuss. That's what I hear from pastors and priests. Over and over again. Sir, 42 seconds. Likewise, I've seen parishes get into fights with one another. You see, I'm not going to name the parishes. One parish with several $1 million joins another parish that's in debt. What happens? This parish loses all its money, bails out this parish. You have two different ethnic groups with different traditions and different mores. And now they have to integrate. One's a little more liberal, one's a little more conservative, and they end up fighting with each other. That's not how it's supposed to go. Let us, the parishioners, get together to figure out these problems. Lastly, I'd like to say, I know sisters, religious who come here and they are looking for places to live. They can save places like this. St. John Cantius was saved. Our St. Mary of Angels was saved. Thank you.
State your name, please.
Jennifer Carlin Mills, 4521 North Malden. My little dot is also farther away, but I think that my being here is relevant because I've been a Chicagoan all my life and a Catholic all my life, and I've been observing the politics of both Chicago and the Archdiocese. Libraries, schools, museums, theaters, hospitals, municipal buildings, post offices, universities, churches are all donated to by people within the community who either go to that organization or that institution themselves because they support it in their ward or their community. Catholics and non-Catholics alike support the Catholic Church in their neighborhood because the Catholic Church is supposedly providing social services to people in this city. They are failing there. The Archdiocese is granted exemptions only so that they can fulfill the obligation of taking on the burden of social services. If they fail there, they should lose their exemptions. The Archdiocese does not get to look at our churches as their rainy day fund. These lawyers who went line by line, inch by inch of Adalbert's, just sounds like you're casing the joint. Put the money that you put into your reports into the churches, into the people. We don't care about the Archdiocese. The only job they have is to support the churches in the neighborhoods. Give us what we need to do the mission work, because that's how it works. The Archdiocese is not doing the mission work, and they're not helping us do it. So what are they doing? They're just liquidating to pay off their criminal restitution. Our churches are not for that. This is an investment of people in this city for over 140 years. The Nebraska-born Cardinal doesn't get to make the choice for the rest of Chicago because he decides he wants to play in the big city playground.
Thank you. There's the last call for these following people. Zedwiga Walinska, Rosa Ibanez, Gersban Anastasia, Ziggy Tamal. Okay. Please state your name.
My name is Anastasia Gersban, and I live in Chicago. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, members of the Commission of Chicago Landmarks, for proceeding landmarking St. Adalbert Church. I do appreciate you very, very much. I remember how happy I was seeing large, colorful envelope decorated with a written sign, "Renew my church," sent to me by Cardinal Supich. I thought that it's going to be a great initiative to enrich our parishes, to bring more people to our church, or any action really to renew my church. How much I was saddened when gradually I understood what it's really about. I was frightened about my parish, especially after witnessing closing St. Thecla Parish, which was not in debt at all. I got to know it is only about money, not to please God or advance his glory. When Cardinal Supich's action of renewing church came to St. Adalbert, knowing his motives, we said no. No for such a magnificent and valuable church where every brick is prayer by millions of people over 150 years. The sweat of those people who work hard to save every penny to build this church can't be wasted this way by Cardinal Supich or Pastor Enright, I don't know, who else? Saint Adalbert, inspired by Roman churches, which is predate the Renaissance, with pair of 185-foot Baroque towers, appears as the most beautiful cathedral-style church in Chicago. The immense body has the most magnificent marble work not to be found in any church in Chicago. There are also large white marble statues of the saints, including the statue of the church patron, Saint Adalbert. The white marble side altars have valuable paintings and pieta taken already by St. Paul Church. There are historical murals on the walls. Above the entrance of the church rises spectacular two-story choir loft, with carving ranges of organ pipes on either side. The list of the assets of this church is endless, and it gives the greatest historical, architectural, and artistic justification for a landmark. It is impossible.
The following people have signed up, do not wish to speak. Sudliska Brilska in favor of the project. Emma Carlos opposed to the project. Danuta Erla is in favor of the project. Alberto Rivera opposed to the project. Stan Erla is in favor of the project. Maria Bobak in favor of the project. Sophia Sitko in favor of the project. Bridget Berry opposed to the project. Lupe Mena opposed to the project. Roman Wakamunda is in favor of the project. Wes Matthews in favor of the project. Frida Mendez opposed to the project. Diego Pacheco Nordis is opposed to the project. Jose Francisco Arriaga is opposed to the project. Eva, something in favor of the project. Kathy Rodriguez opposed to the project. Ephraim Fernandez opposed to the project. Next 5 people, please line up to speak. Solskin Gomez Crow. Concepcion Aguilar. Frank Butterfield. Alice Swirgle. Carolina Medina. Please state your name.
My name is Solskin Gomez Crow, and I'm a parishioner of the Institute of Christ the King in Woodlawn, formerly known as St. Clara at St. Gelasius, a church that was received landmark status in 2003 because it was a Harry Schlacks church. Today, I'm advocating here for the landmarking at St. Adalbert's. It is a historic treasure in our Pilsen community, which I actually work in and go into every day to support young Latinas. And it has been known as the Cathedral of the West Side. But I want to point out a couple things that the Archdiocese made in its case. It says that church attendance is declining. Not true in the traditional Latin Mass. The Mass has been canceled here in Chicago. And even though the Institute of the Christ the King had a flourishing congregation, many whose red dots were outside of the city, they would travel to Woodlawn. Something similar could happen with St. Adalbert's. Those red dots still bring resources to the neighborhoods. They bring charity. And despite the cancellation, my parish now goes to church in Indiana. But we still have our landmark church where we do community events. So, as I said in the past, a closed church still has life. And with the landmarking of St. Adalbert's, we can bring a new life to that community, to St. Adalbert's. It has, it did raise funds to repair those towers, and that money was returned. So you have people wanting to invest not only in the community and in Pilsen, but in a church and to preserve its historic record. So I vote in favor. I ask the commission to vote in favor of landmark status because a closed church does have life. I also wanted to share, the Archdiocese lawyer said that there is no room in freedom of religion, that Chicago doesn't have a choice to say it. But the U.S. Supreme Court did side in the past that when they ruled on separation of church and state, that municipalities need to.
Good afternoon or good evening, one of the two. My name is Irene Moskal Delgaitis. I am a former president of the Polish American Congress and a former trustee of Triton College, and currently on the board of the Society of St. Adalbert. My brother, Edward Moskal, God rest his soul, was president of the Polish National Alliance and led an effort to save and revitalize historic St. John Cantius, which is thriving today. St. Adalbert is very important to the Polish community, as I'm sure by now you are all aware. We are so proud of what our poor ancestors were able to achieve with the beautiful church and property. Please help us preserve our heritage and history by landmarking the St. Adalbert site. And please also request that the stained glass windows in our pieta be returned as part of the landmarking. Thank you.
My name is Danuta Irla.
State your name, please.
Danuta Irla. 1026 South Beechwood Drive, Illinois. Good evening. My name is Danuta Irla. I live in 1026 South Beechwood Drive, Mount Prospect. Previously, I was attend to this church. This church was building by immigrants. It was not funded from government. They building with their own hands. It is shameful right now that this is what happened. I cannot believe it because many parents, grandparents were working here to stand up that they have their own church. Another thing, this church is over 150 years, and it's supposed to be as UNESCO landmark. Please make possible that this church can be reopened and we can use this church for future generation. Thank you.
I'm Alice Swergel, and I am a Chicago resident. Father Bruno Camiel, a priest of the Archdiocese of Chicago's family, is connected to the building of St. Albert's Church. Father Bruno's grandfather, Andrew, came to the United States and worked in the steel mills. His grandfather also took part in the construction of St. Albert's Church. His grandfather earned 10 cents an hour in the steel mills. On payday, his grandfather contributed one part of his pay to the construction of St. Albert's Church, one part of his pay for personal use, and one part of his pay for saving for Poland. During the Depression, his grandfather went back to Poland. He always was very happy to talk about contributing for the construction of St. Albert's Church. St. Albert's Church was built by humble men of deep faith who labored through the snow of winter, the floods of spring, the dust of summer, and the chill of autumn in order that they might express their love for God and prepare a suitable dwelling for the Eucharistic Lord. St. Albert's is a truly magnificent church, fashioned in stone and marble and precious glass, in symbolic figures, an expression of every other craft that may serve to bring the people of God closer to Him. The laborers of St. Albert's Church are in their tombs now. They will weep and cry if the fruits of their labors will be turned to dust. St. Albert's is a church that faith built and must continue to be a beacon for all generations for the salvation of souls. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Carolina Medina, and I live next door to St. Adalbert's, and I have lived there for 30 years. I need to address the lawyer who showed the graph. It is completely wrong. I do not know one neighbor who does not want the landmark to pass. Not one. As a matter, okay, just let me continue with this. St. Adalbert's needs to be landmarked, not just because it is irreplaceable, beautiful architecture, but for what it represents to the Pilsen community as a whole. St. Adalbert's Church tells the story of Pilsen's past, present, and future. We know that the Polish community, newly arrived immigrants, built St. Adalbert's with their own resources. This is truly a reflection of the American dream that shows the will and determination of a decent group of hardworking people. More recently, Mexicans have become the newly arrived immigrants, and we have been using St. Adalbert's as our own house of worship until it closed. Now we have come to a point where the future has become uncertain for St. Adalbert's and for Pilsen. With no money, housing challenges, gentrification, and the decision to landmark St. Adalbert's is even more important now. Chicago needs to be committed to saving important and irreplaceable structures that can't fend for themselves. I fear for the negative consequences of not landmarking and the damage to the Pilsen community that might result from the building being misused. Pilsen is rapidly losing its identity. As someone who has seen the neighborhood undergo drastic changes during my lifetime, I am devastated at the possibility that a permanent fixture and literal pillar of our community is at risk of being destroyed. I beg you to please grant landmark status to St. Adalbert's Church.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Frank Butterfield was called to speak, and unfortunately, he had a family emergency and had to leave. But he asked me to read his commentary into the record. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Frank Butterfield, and I am the Chief Operating Officer of Landmarks, Illinois. My organization supports the final landmark recommendation for the St. Adalbert's Parish Complex and urges the Commission to vote in favor of this designation today. In 2016, Landmarks Illinois placed St. Adalbert's and Chicago's historic Catholic churches in our annual list of the most endangered historic places in Illinois in response to the Archdiocese of Chicago's announcement that it would close the church for worship. St. Adalbert's Church meets the criteria for landmark designation as set forth in the municipal code, and for that reason, the Commission should vote in favor. We also urge that all conversations about the future of these buildings be undertaken with the input of the Pilsen community. Landmarks Illinois offers our partnership and expertise to the community in working toward a vibrant new use for historic St. Adalbert's.
Thank you. The following people have signed up, do not wish to speak. Helena Sokolska is in favor. Marian Rodolski, also in favor. Jim Del Gaitis, in favor. Juana Rogel, opposed to the project. Godia de los Santos, opposed to the project. Rachel Dilworth, opposed to the project. Can you read that? Anna Grilsko is in favor of the project. Danuta Zorniak, also in favor of the project. Alyssa Manrique is opposed to the project. Carla Aviles is opposed to the project. Evelyn Aviles also opposed to the project. Kyle Ryan is in favor of the project. Emma Villarreal is opposed to the project. Maria Ballesteros is opposed to the project. Andy Bobow is in favor of the project. Alina Gersak is in favor of the project. Rita Aguilar is opposed to the project. Mercedes Hernandez is opposed to the project. And the following people, if you could sign up to speak and line up, I'd appreciate it. Patrick Grossi, Blanca Torres, George Blakemore, Commissioner Dan, and Sylvia Saffron, and Bridget McBride. I thought Bridget spoke already. Bridget McBride. That's it. That's it.
Good afternoon. I'm in favor of this beautiful landmark being here. I go along with this beautiful structure. Now, what is going on here is something political. It's a whoring bride of Christ. It's the church, the Catholic Church. You heard me say the whoring bride of Christ. The church has lost its mission. It's something evil going on here. The Polish people are very proud of this structure. Now it's being gentrified with another people, illegal people from various countries, the Mexican community. But the church has money for sanctuary, bringing in illegals in. However, they should have money also to restore this beautiful edifice to its original site. On the site, and this structure is beautiful. Something is wrong here. Something is wrong here. One shouldn't be fighting the other one. A divided family, a divided house can't make it. So you both, all of y'all should work together and make this happen. Make this a historical landmark. And I'm so happy the way the commission has been conducting this meeting. If it's 50 people sign up, 50 people can speak. That's beautiful. And that should be an example to all of our city committees. I just love it, love it, love it. And the church has money for their pedophile priest lawsuit. They have money for that. They can have money to restore this church to its original place. Yes, I'm very, very happy to see all of you here. This shows community and love. I wish I could come down and see the Black community just pack this place for our edifice like the Riga Theater. I just wish that I could come and see that. We have historical buildings in our community, and it's just wonderful, wonderful. And the way you conducted this meeting, let everybody speak. The sergeant of arms did not harass the people. Like if it was totally Black in here, the sergeant of arms be pulling you out. They pulled me out like a Georgia slave. Let us make this happen. Let us make it happen. All of you, let us make this happen. And thank you, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. Next. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. All right. Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please.
It's gonna be tough to follow that up.
Your time's ticking, so let's go.
Hello, my name is Blanca Torres. I live in Pilsen in 1832 West 17th Street. So I live a block and a half away from that building. And I grew up there. That was my second home. I've always written things before, but I sort of wanted to go off the cuff and just say what was in my heart. The criteria, what I heard here is the criteria was met for making St. Adalbert a landmark. That's what I heard from the commissioners. And thank you, commissioners. Thank you for letting us get this far. Thank you so much, because to me, it proves that the 40 years or 50 years that we've been waiting to get the landmark designation is hopefully going to happen. And I feel it in my heart. And the fact that, as been talked about before, that we're pitted against each other with St. Paul and Father Mike. I know Father Mike. He was, he was at St. Adalbert. He was my parish priest. He was my parish priest, and he's a good guy. I, from the bottom of my heart, he is a good man. And I just want everybody to be able to come to the table, as been discussed,
to sit down and we can come up with a solution. Landmarks Illinois, Preservation Chicago, all these historical places and organizations that want to help. And there's all sorts of other churches that are also going to be coming up and asking for, we need to preserve these types of buildings. They're never going to be built again. They are never going to be built again. So we need to be able to preserve them. We would love if it could become a church once again. We would love that. That's our #1 priority. If it doesn't, we still want the church and the buildings to stand. But our #1 priority, of course, is for it to remain a Catholic church. I just want to read real briefly what I wrote to the Cardinal back in 2017 at the end of this letter that I sent to him personally. In these times of crisis and uncertainty in our country, we look to you, Your Eminence, for leadership and support. Our ancestors, many of us who built St. Adalbert and many other Catholic churches and many countries came here for the American dream and the values that make this country great. They were built also with these kinds of churches. So we just want to make certain that these kinds of churches will be able to be preserved for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon again, Patrick Rossi, again on behalf of Preservation Chicago, and kudos and thanks to the commissioners for participating in another long day of testimonies on this issue. So my organization is obviously steadfast in its support of St. Adalbert Parish Complex and its appropriateness for City of Chicago landmark status. You've heard much over the previous months about the campus's architectural merits, its soaring twin towers. You've likewise heard much about the American immigrant communities with intimate connections to this place, in particular Pilsen's Polish American and Mexican American families. I just want to briefly reiterate the role of institutions such as St. Adalbert's as community anchors and neighborhood assets. Service, as many people have commented, is as much a part of the history of these buildings as is brick and mortar. In advancing the landmarking process, allows the opportunity for that service to continue, allows these buildings to provide a sense of continuity to the Pilsen community and broader Chicago, and ensures that we do not needlessly waste the labor, materials, and energy which past generations spent to construct this place and make it whole. On its architectural merits, its history of service, and its potential for desired and evolving use, the St. Adalbert Parish Complex is a more than fitting candidate for City of Chicago landmark status, and Preservation Chicago again strongly encourages the Commission and City Council to advance its consideration. I thank you for your time.
My name is Sylvia Safran, and I'm here to remind all of you, beautiful people, everybody, the first 3 words of our Constitution is, we the people. The only 3 words are very powerful. They declare that the Constitution derives the power not from the king, not from the Congress, but from people themselves, which I am a part of it, and not for lawyers who get paid. We, the people, and please, in 2023, Adalbert Church was recognized as a landmark. Would you please, let's move forward and make our church landmark? Once, Abraham Lincoln said, I walk slow, but never walk backward. So please take this wonderful thought into account and make the church landmark. You as a government official, your duty and obligation is to ensure that the constituents have basic constitutional right to express the rights of freedom and, of course, religion. So the mere fact I'm standing in front of you, once again, I want to quote Mr. Lincoln, stand with anybody that stand right. Stand with him while he's right, and part with him when he goes wrong. Before I finish, I want to say, Mr. Lopez, I bow in front of you. As a teacher of Polish language, I will make sure all my students know that you are a hero. You know why? Because you're not afraid of say what you think. Many people were not happy what you were talking. You have integrity. You are a powerful person. And once again, I want to say what John Paul said, do not be afraid. And that's what you are. Do not be afraid. We are the people. We're not the lawyers who very often goes around the people. Thank you very much, Mr. Lopez. Again, bow my head.
My name is Dan Pogozelski. I'm a lifelong Chicagoan. Can I speak?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I'll keep it brief. Looking at these buildings, there's been a lot of talk, religion, but today what I want to call attention to is the architecture of these buildings, because this right here is an organ of the law. For a long time, the Archdiocese of Chicago had a right to effectively veto historic buildings from being preserved. We are in a country where there is separation of church and state. We should not talk about religion. We should talk about this wonderful, beautiful edifice that we have here, which absolutely is worthy of landmark status. We've heard experts talk about this over and over again, and I asked the commission to look at the merits of this structure, just like St. Paul and many other structures, which ought to be protected for posterity as official landmarks of the city of Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you.
He was tall. Okay, this will be long, and I hope everyone settles in. Just kidding. I think we are nearing the end of this historic
Could you state your name, please?
day. My name is Bridget
you.
McBride. I'm at 832 West Oakdale. I am in favor of landmarking the St. Alderbert's complex. The entire complex is critical to the success of this landmarking initiative, especially in Pilsen. It's Pilsen's time to be a part of this group of landmark buildings throughout the Chicago area. It's been a long journey. It started with helicopters flying over when the La Piata was being taken away from the church. We have seen the stained glass windows be taken out of the church and taken away for safekeeping. We pray that the Landmark Commission not only landmarks the entire complex, but also includes the beautiful stained glass windows that are part of the parish. Let's go. You simply just cannot go. Look at that beautiful church when you go in there and the light is hitting it at the right time from sunup to sundown, and it's casting all of those beautiful colors throughout the parish inside. That needs to absolutely be part of this landmark initiative. The beautiful part about this church is the complex and the buildings that created this community of 110, 20, 30, 40 years ago. That's what we need to show what we can do when people from around the world come to Chicago and contribute something that stands the test of time. And here we are, over 100 years later, honoring those people, those migrants that came without any money, but they knew that they wanted to be part of Chicago, and look what they contributed. And I thank the Landmark Commission for being with us for this long journey, and hope that this vote is to landmark St. Albert's Complex. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The following people have signed up. They are not speaking. Henry Smith is in favor of the project. Joe Strelecki, also in favor of the project. Anna Orsonio is opposed to the project. Alexander Lackerbauer is in favor of the project. Virginia Sanchez opposed to the project. Raul Serrato opposed to the project. Wilker Kazetsky in favor of the project. Ann Regale in favor of the project. Maria Wazna in favor of the project. Weslaw Malesko in favor of the project. Elizabeth Sotka in favor of the project. George Sirach in favor of the project. Joseph Zubek in favor of the project. And there has been one person, Amelia Navarro, who didn't indicate whether she wanted to be in favor of the project or not. Those are all the people that have signed up to speak on this matter. Is there discussion amongst the commission? I just want to note that you've had a long day today, hearing a lot of impassioned testimony here. Again, I reminded everybody that the public hearing was the time for that. We have allowed a number of hours to allow people to speak today. Commissioner Boatright, thank you for your patience on this as well. With no further business, I do want to remind you that we are voting on the building itself and whether this meets the criteria and whether we can make a recommendation to landmark the building. And so with that, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation to the City Council for the St. Adelberg Parish Complex. Is there a motion? So moved, Commissioner Burns. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Boatright. We'll take the vote. Commissioner Jekowitz? Commissioner Fair? Commissioner Hughes? Commissioner Rubin? I am a yes also. The motion carries unanimously. Commissioner Jekowitz, we have the project review committee reports to go. And you also have a meeting yet that you want to cancel. So if you could, I'd like you to make that report, please. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The permit review committee reviewed and conditionally approved 2 projects at its April 4th, 2024 meeting. And its May 2nd, as its May 2nd meeting, the permit review committee reviewed 4 projects. All 4 projects were approved with conditions, and the report summarizing the scope of the proposed projects and the committee's decisions were as included in your package. Excuse me.
Can you please?
This report is for your information and for the record.
Thank you. Emily, do you want to give the?
Okay, thank you. So for the month of April, staff approved 140 permit applications. A total of 181 reviews were performed by staff, with the average number of days to issue approval or corrections 4.7. For May, staff approved 141 permit applications. A total of 177 reviews were performed by staff. Average number of days to issue approval or corrections
Can you clear the gallery, please?
4.6.
Thank you. Commissioner Jekowitz, do you want to make your announcement to cancel the?
Yes, just an announcement to anyone here from the permit review committee. It does appear that given the length of today's meeting that we will need to postpone our meeting until the next couple next week or the following week, so we will be in touch. So thank you for your understanding and your patience on this item. We'll be in touch
Thank
on
you.
a future meeting.
There being no further business, I'd like to request a motion to adjourn this meeting. So move, Commissioner Boatright, and second, Commissioner Rubin. All in favor, say aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.